steal my chair?
Oh!
No, it's fine.
No,
You stole my chair?
I
Oh my god, how did you? Thank you. Alright. What's up?
I was gonna say, like, if I ever talk to you,
You're good, yeah. So we got busy because of everything that's traffic is happening now.
Reed, I'm adding you to the stuff right now.
Yeah, once your hours is done for this meeting, if you want, yeah,
Are you in the
good.
teams?
You read the agenda, correct? You got the, did you get the email this week with the agenda?
I think somebody missed it and they sent me a follow.
Only in that problem. That one. That's not what your email was. Like I know your lesson. Anyways, yeah. So, just read the agenda. And teams. Okay. So just pull up the agenda, follow along with the agenda. If you're not sure for a vote, abstain. You're the only one who I'm not going to judge for abstaining. Conflict of interest people can abstain, so if you abstain, anything like that, you're good. Do you have any other questions? They're all, you have access to the Google Drive? Can you give them access to the Google Drive? Everything's in the Google Drive, so access to Google Drive now. Yeah. I'm gonna slide you over. Alrighty guys, make sure you're checked in on Hopkins groups. Thank you. I say, not checking in on Hopkins groups. Thank you, thank you. If you guys see that somebody next to you is absent, please text them. I'm going to start the meeting as soon as we get Reed added to the Google Drive.
You're all set.
Okay, you're good. Just make sure you check the Google Drive because that's where all of our stuff is. Like literally everything. Okay, good. Karen, you have your placards? Yes. Okay, good. Everybody have their placards? Yes, yes. Beautiful. Take a breath. We're breathing. Breathing is my favorite thing to do. I love breathing. I love attention. This is fine. Okay, Donnie's presentation is literally 4 slides. Yeah. No, actually, it's pretty good. Elena, am I good? Is the live stream set up good? Yes? Okay. Hello everyone. Can I get a motion? Motion to start the meeting. Can I, all in favor of starting the meeting? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we are now in Senate Meeting 21 of this semester. We're going to go ahead and do roll call. I'm going to pull up the attendance sheet. Again, if you notice somebody from your class council is not here, please, grab their back. Nathan is a lateness. He will be coming back at around 7:45. Otherwise, fill out the absence form as necessary. Starting off with Executive Board, President Ali.
Hi everyone, welcome to another.
This is not your update. This is attendance.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Here. My bad.
Vice President Solitelli here. Elena. Here. Karen. Here. Nathan is late. Angela. Here. Grace. Here. Nikki. Here. Pritika. Here. Suba. Here. Veda. Here. Talia. Oh, absent. Trenat. Here. Jiwan.
Hi.
Obi.
Here.
Peter.
Present.
Sophie.
She said that she's gonna be a bit late.
Okay, thank you. Kobe.
Here.
Harvey.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Jenny. Here. Ireland.
Here.
Rachel. Here. Raj.
Here.
Shalala.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Selhart.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Jean.
Here.
Kaya.
Here.
Nasreen. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any more chairs. These chairs are taken currently. Feel free to stand. There's some chairs in the other rooms if you wanna. Okay, I am. Alrighty, we've concluded call to order and roll call. We're gonna go ahead and move into reports. Executive Board and S.
We have a limit of SC people in this room.
Oh, are we at 50? Okay.
No.
Okay. Nathan's coming back in. And Sophie's coming in.
32 plus.
You do the math. Executive Board and SGA branch reports, starting off with Executive President.
Hi everyone, welcome to another amazing Tuesday GBM. Happy Blue Jay Tuesday. So just some quick updates. We will be having our tabling event the following Wednesday after spring break from 11 to 2. So please make sure to sign up for that. I'm going to be sending out the link for sign up soon. Then we will also be motioning for a tabling bill later for the agenda. Additionally, me and Nikki is setting up a meeting with OI and student conduct to gather some information feedback and discuss with them how we're going to run our next forum, which will be on March 31st from 6 to 7. And so we will be sending out an email following spring break to set that up. Please make sure you and people that you think would be interested attend, because it will be a great time to clarify policies that OIE and student conduct may have not made clear. And this is something that I know people have been interested in before. Other than that, I won't be here at all next week, so if you have any questions, please direct them to the rest of the exec team. And yeah.
Alrighty. So as you guys know, moving on to executive vice president reports, that's me. As you guys know, Carolyn's at a conference all of this week, so she will not be here today. Calvin is here in her stead and will give the advisory report in her place. We had our executive board meeting today. We discussed some things that are on the agenda today, as well as just general things for the future. In the future, I'm going to be talking to Carolyn about, some CSE stuff with just initiation for new members, et cetera, that kind of things. PRDC, I've started looking at the PRDC applications, so that will be sorted by next GBM if everybody responds in time to get their interview sorted, which is all good. I met with Talia very briefly about partnering and doing a co-sponsoring the Planet Runway by the Students for Environmental Action, which is the sustainability thing. So if you are on HSS, hopefully you saw my message about that. If you want to design or model for that, let me know. I'm working with them and am designing and modeling, as well as helping with that. And if you guys have any ideas for co-sponsoring them, bring any events at all, bring it up to your committees. Always a good thing to happen. And I think that covers everything on the agenda for my part. Yeah, okay. Executive Treasurer, go ahead, Karen.
Hello, I hope everyone had a great week. So we had a meeting last night and we were to finalize monthly grants, and we're also working to finish the staff guidelines, which will be on the grant, and also just been meeting with CSO and various other people to continue finalizing stuff.
All right, moving on to Executive Secretary, Elena.
Now that we've had some people leaving the room, I'm reviewing the attendance website, so just giving us more time. I'm also still working on the project with the
All right, sounds good. We're going to go ahead and move on to class council reports. So does somebody from senior class want to take it in Nathan's stead?
Yeah, I can take it. We've been organizing senior class formal, which will be on April 2nd. We've been coordinating with the venue and hope to start marketing by the end of this week and next week. We also have been securing a couple of venues for senior week, and we'll have more updates to come. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Alrighty, moving on to juniors. Somebody want to go instead of the junior class president?
We're doing great.
You want to give further updates on grade?
We're currently planning on the paintball with China, and we're also looking at the formal.
Great. That's great. Wonderful. Moving on to sophomores, Kobe.
Our big garden party event is this Friday. Still working out a couple details, but hopefully things will go smoothly. We also have a pink night organized April 1st, and we'll have all our supplies ready for it.
Alrighty. And then last but not least, freshmen.
Yeah, literally every other class we're working on our formal. We're underway, we're planning, everybody has specific roles now, and things are going well. Yeah.
We are also working on selection.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
and
you.
Also that.
Yeah, so if you guys did not see, John is unfortunately no longer with us, so they will be coming up with a replacement. Same process that I think every other class council has been through now. So we all get experience, and I will be meeting with you guys about that at some point, just to make sure we're on the right track. Go ahead.
Point of information, since the capacity for the room is capped at 50 and we're currently 4 people over, if 4 people from the general public would like to step out, I really do apologize, but we have to follow the rules.
It's COVID protocol.
Yeah.
First come, first served.
So if you were one of the last 4 in the room, unfortunately, this is the biggest room that we could possibly get.
But you guys can step back in for public input if 4 other people switch out later on.
You could take turns, rotate through. Alrighty, moving on to committee reports, we have academic affairs. Veda?
Nothing too much to update on this week. We're continuing to work on the DEI resolution. We're also hoping to start a discussion to the Public Safety Accountability Board. And next week we'll be meeting with the Vice Dean to continue a conversation with the course evaluation folks.
If there's anything else anyone wants to bring up to the vice team, please let us know.
Thank you.
Secondary point of information, we have some presenters from Donning today that will be leaving, so it should free up a couple chairs after their presentation. So if you guys want to text the people who went outside, that way they know they're not totally kicked. Sorry about that. Civic engagement, Kobe.
So we were unable to meet this last week, but we are still working hard on our election as a holiday before all of us as students leave and before Dave Wilson leaves, so kind of create something that we can hand off. And we're also going to start working more with Hopkins votes as primaries and this upcoming election.
Finance, Obi.
We've just been working on the SAP guidelines for 22 to 23 fiscal year, and we've also been, we approved or required modification for a couple monthly grants. And we also just worked on the funding processes that will be discussed later on.
Alrighty, HSS, somebody would like to speak for Talia?
Yeah, we just had some general updates, and then working on finalizing some information for a catering event we want to do at the farmers market, and then are partnering with the students for an environmental concern for their fashion.
Beautiful. Internal affairs, Jiwon.
We're working on a major bylaw update, and it's probably going to be feeling about it coming on next week.
Beautiful. Moving on to student organizations.
We've been mostly running through re-registrations. We passed one prospective organization, so that was very exciting. And then we've also been working very closely with finance to talk about the bylaws, tax bylaws, and also meeting with a couple of external organizations.
And student services.
So we've been working on making a survey and making a survey to gauge like people's interest in terms of what they want student services. We approved that survey as a committee, and we're hoping to send that out either this week or next week. And we're also currently working on Janet's bill, which is like refunding like the suggestion box. I think we have like a bill in Congress prior to COVID, but due to
It was passed by
yeah.
former Senator Singleton, yeah. Beautiful. That concludes committee reports. We're going to go ahead and move on to caucus reports. We're starting off with the PETA caucus. Kobe.
So we had our first meeting as a caucus. It was really nice. A lot of people showed up. We also had our meeting with our contact for HIA votes, Ananya. That was really good. We came up with a list of things we want to do this semester, this upcoming year. And also talked about other like ways we can civically engage our students.
And the Black caucus. Obi.
We didn't meet this past week, but we've still just been working on programming and making sure the Black History Month and Black programming event calendars are up to date. And I've just been working in an unofficial capacity to support ASA and DSU in their end of the year formals and
Sounds good. Disability caucus. Harvey.
So this past week we had our first meeting with the Student Disability Services, and that meeting actually went very pleasantly well. We had most of our SDA members attending with that, so it was an excellent first dialogue, kind of start off a constructive working relationship with the office. We talked about some of our goals for the rest of the semester and just kind of our standing goals as a caucus as a whole, including a potentially mandatory disability training for professors, which we have found actually there is some internal support for, and materials for that are being developed as we speak. So that is something that we are going to have a heavy role in. And if anyone has any other questions kind of afterwards about what that's looking like, I'm more than happy to start a dialogue with other senators or members of the SGA overall.
WGMC.
As Mahag stated before, we are in the process of meeting with OAE for the town hall and seeing which WGMC members will be in attendance. We're also starting on working on the pronoun pin event.
Alrighty, and that concludes our caucus reports. Ignore my terrible spelling. Advisor report, take it away.
Yes, only big things are coming up is everything. So we have the sophomore class council event that's happening this week, I believe, Saturday? Friday, there we go. The freshmen, juniors, and seniors are working on their events. Obviously, I think we got 180 plus applications for Leadership Weekend. I mean, not Leadership Weekend, Leadership Awards, which is the highest since I've been here.
I think Carolyn said we crossed 200 within the last few hours.
So I remember we were 180, so over 200 applications, and so we plan on, getting those awards and making sure everybody gets their money, because, that's great. Those awards are tied to money, so we like that. obviously, we are heavily preparing for spring fair in our office. And so, you know, and more exciting information to come on spring fair. We'll be making some major announcements soon. But, you know, suffice it to say, a lot happening this upcoming spring semester for students and out of the adults.
Alrighty, that concludes our advisory report. So we're moving into new business. For those of you who are here for public input, we specifically move public input to right before SAC guidelines so we can hear you guys out, because that's just the structure of how our GBM is. So I'll tell you guys when we're able to speak, and I'll review the actual structure for it. So we'll all be good for there. We're going to go ahead and start off new business with the dining presentation. I'll give a brief introduction and then I'll turn it over to our speakers. We actually have a nice little presentation available for this. Good. Okay. Beautiful. So, as some of you guys know, hopefully all of you guys know, we have some dining representatives here today to talk about self-operated dining. I'm going to let Elena press all the buttons that she needs to press. Thank you. We have tech support. So they're going to be here to talk to us. They want student input as student representatives. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to look over the presentation. It's on the agenda so you guys can pull it up now. And then I recommend motioning for a moderated caucus or some form of Q&A so we can get a good discussion going. And as soon as they're available, as soon as we finish setting up the tech stuff, we will go ahead and switch back. And I'll turn it over. Thanks. That looks great.
Oh, it's just... Okay, let's just go into the presentation and that's okay, great, Ken.
Alrighty, so dining, turning it over to you guys.
Great. Well, I'd just like to start with introducing ourselves. Thank you very much, Vice President. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to the student government today. We're very excited about the transition to self-op dining, so thank you again. My name is Matt Moss. I'm the Assistant Vice Provost for Dining Operations. Came on board about 5 months ago to lead the transition and set the pace for where we're going to go as we go into the fall. We have a couple of other of our team members here today that have them introduce themselves. And then we'll just jump right into the presentation. Try and keep the presentation brief because, you know, there's probably 1,001 questions about all the things that may or may not be happening in the fall. So, Lizette?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Lizette Galena. I'm the executive chef for the campus. So nice to meet you.
I'm Ian McGowan. I serve as the Director for Retail Operations on campus.
I'm sorry we didn't clap for the first one. I didn't realize. We got it. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead.
Everybody always claps for the chef.
We're college students. We like food, you know?
So we want to just share with you some of the things that we just shared recently with the Board of Trustees to give them an update on what's going on. So you're hearing the very same things that they are as well. So, you know, part of moving to our transition in dining is to really align ourselves more with the university's values and its mission. It's a very important part of what we do. We want to be able to drive innovation and really lead the nation in the culinary expectations of what you can do with a dining program. It's a very lofty goal, and it's not all going to happen in year one. I think that's something to keep in perspective. We made this decision relatively quickly, and we've had a team on the groundwork who are still hiring our team. So what we can do in this fall and what we can do in the future are probably two different things. One of the things that's very important is really building a community and making sure that we provide a dining program that really encompasses all of the JHU community. Making sure that we get engagement from partners on campus, departments, as well as the student body is going to be really important as we look at recipes, menus, concept development. That's a really big part. This is your program. This is not now a vendor program that is outsourced to somebody else. We're going to be part of the Johns Hopkins community. And then utilizing community organizations throughout the neighborhoods to really be able to get the right outcomes. We all know that there's a big partnership with Hopkins Local, and we want to take advantage of that where we can. leaning in towards the student experience. Now, in a contracted service environment, you feel that the lens in which all decisions are made, data analytics, all of those sorts of things, is through profitability. Profitability for the institution or profitability for the company itself. We're going to take a very different approach. We're going to look through the lens of student experience. All our decisions are going to be made around how does this affect the students? Does this enhance the experience that the student is going to have? What are the outcomes that come from that from looking through the student's lens? And we all know that sustainability is an incredibly high priority for the university and the institution as a whole. Making sure that we balance our fiduciary responsibilities with the global responsibilities that we have as an organization are going to be a real big platform for how we build out the program. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of how we've gone towards the approach of the organizational chart. I sit at the top of the organization, really helping lead the programming and the thought process around how we build out the team. We've got three key pillars in how we build out our program. We've taken the support part of the team, which is really driving both future innovation and development, which reside under the Director of Culinary Innovation, really forward-looking in recipe development, menus, those sorts of things, concepts as they're going to come. The Executive Director of Operations, Michelle Mooney, she's unable to make it here tonight. She will lead the team from a day-to-day culinary standpoint, our marketing operations, catering, and residential dining. And then our Director of Retail Operations, Ian McGowan, who's here, he will lead all of our retail perspectives. And we know retail on college campuses has really changed over the last few years. The want and the desire of customization is really changing the platform from residential to a balance against retail. And so as we grow, the responsibility of the Director of Retail Operations will have not only the current operations, but the growing operations we see at the new Student Center, at the SNF Agora, and other things to come. So we're very excited about how this lays out. We've also dedicated resources for a campus dietitian, a dedicated sustainability manager for the dining program only, a safety and sanitation manager, because we are going to prioritize as our #1 priority to make sure that we're doing things the right way and we're doing them safely. That's not something that we're going to sacrifice in any way, shape, or form. Next slide. So we talked a little bit about student engagement and where we want to go and what we want to do. So we really want to be able to develop platforms that allow for greater student input. Things like getting input from students on your favorite recipe. Things. What did your grandma used to cook? Back in the day that you missed from home. We know that there's at Hopkins there's a lot of culture diversity. And how do we help incorporate that if we don't get input from the students? So that's going to be a big part of what we're doing. We want to engage with the student organizations as well as department organizations across the campus. Departments like the multicultural affairs and those sorts of things to ensure that not only are we doing things in a diverse perspective, but we're also making sure that we stick to authenticity, which is really important. We feel that being able to do things authentically is the right way to be able to do them, not just characterizing things in a frame of culinary perspective is the right way to approach the business. You'll find with going to self-op, we're going to be very transparent. So how the numbers are working, what the feedback truly is, what's making up in our menus, where we're sourcing our products, where it's coming from, why we're doing it, why are we making those purchasing decisions, we feel is really important. It gives back to the students. We are honoring your funding to run the operation, and so the more transparent we can be, the better the operation that we have, the more input that you will give us. I think a big part of what we want to make sure that we do is creating the right culture from the top down, from my role all the way through the organization, our management team, creating the right culture that invests not only in the team that we have, but also in our employees. We're currently in the process of negotiating a new CBA agreement with the employees, and we want to make sure that as we bring on that union group, that we create the right opportunities for them to feel like we're investing in them. We're also giving them the opportunity to feel like they can engage with students. One of the things that we note right now, we don't feel that there's a lot of engagement with our team members, with students directly. And we think there's a great opportunity for a greater level of customer service, guest interaction, to really build the program. We're really invested in employment opportunities for students. We're just talking tonight about social media interns, graphic design interns, sustainability interns, those sorts of opportunities, supervisory roles as the new HSC comes on board, opportunities within the pub for student managers and those sorts of things. We think is a great way to really be able to bring students to have to be a part of the operation. And then we want to look for where we can build greater involvement directly with the schools here on campus. Help us drive innovation by the resources that we have. Things like working with the Whiting School on the design of a biodiesel engine to operate our transport across campus instead of using other forms of vehicles. Things like that. Working with the School of Public Health to really help with our programming and our menu development is an important part. So we really want to embrace the entire campus community. I think that's a big part of how we face this self-dining operation. Next slide.
I think that was all your slides, if memory serves. Okay. Alrighty. So, whoa, that was a lot. I think I saw Jackson's first.
So first I wanted to...
What are you motioning for?
Motion for
Q&A?
a 10-minute Q&A.
With 1 minute speaking times? Alrighty, we're now at a 10-minute Q&A with 1 minute speaking times. I'm going to be adding people to the speakers list. The way Q&A works is they ask you a question, you get to answer, and then we move on to the next person. Easy peasy.
Great. Seems the chef got the clap for doing that.
Alright, Jackson, you're good to go.
Yeah. So first I wanted to thank the three of you for taking your time to meet with us. So I'm a freshman class senator. My name is Jackson. I kind of want to say, just kind of like looking at it critically, the current dining plan under Bon Appetit is kind of been plagued with complaints about spoiled food, low quality, and often general dissent from students in the freshman and sophomore classes. This is just things that I've heard and kind of experienced myself. For those who might already be wary of the university's dining programs, how do you intend to reverse and overcome these current perceptions?
Point of order. Don't we have to second and vote on it?
Did I skip ahead?
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I got so excited because I had so many motions I didn't have to ask for them. Ignore the question that was said. I recognize your motion. Sorry about that. All in favor of moving into Q&A? Any opposed? Any abstentions? The first time I mess up, we have a full room. So sad. Okay, Jackson, now you're good to go. Continue your question.
You probably got that was the whole question.
Works out well.
So thank you. Yes, there's definitely some wariness about what Bon Appetit has currently been doing, and we know that that usually happens in a lot of programming as we get later in the semester, but we're early on. One of the things we really want to be able to do, we're in the process of about to hire a director of marketing, making sure that we get our communications out there to students now while students are on campus to ensure that they see what's coming and hear what's coming. We'll also be starting to work directly with the hub on some of the things that we're going to be able to share for next year. Some blog spots, our star TikToker right here is going to be sharing some of her recipe development, some of the things that you'll start to see for next year to really grow some excitement. We want to be able to do, we want to be able to do as much to grow the excitement now for next semester as we possibly can before students leave. And then you'll see us, as the team is starting to form, be out in the environment, much more. And we want to look at other opportunities to get your feedback over the next 8 weeks while you're still here before the end of the semester. So you'll see that after spring break.
Got it. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. Next on the list is, go ahead.
Thank you so much for giving this presentation and putting the students, the consumers here at Hopkins, at the priority of your list for input. The university offers a lot of culture foods through Bon Appetit, and I, as well as my peers, do not feel like it's an accurate reflection of our own culture. And I do see like health is the #1 aspect within this whole transition. And now it's moving into self-operation. How are you, as well as everyone contributing to this transition, going to ensure cultured food is accurately and respectfully represented? Is there a diversity advisor on board?
Can I answer?
Yep, you're all good.
So there's not a diversity advisor on board. One of the things that we actually want to do is work directly with student organizations. So we have a student advisory board that is pretty diverse right now. The gentleman who's the freshman president actually sits on that. But we also want to be able to get input from students, the things that we want to be able to get feedback once we've developed the menus on, does the food actually taste like it's supposed to taste? Getting direct feedback. And I think some of the challenge with that is what tastes and feels authentic to you may not taste and feel authentic to somebody else, even if you are from the same culture, ethnicity, race, all the rest of it. So we have to be very careful that we don't pigeonhole ourselves into one perspective of it. And we're not going to always be authentic to everybody. So we have to be really careful about that. But we are going to look for both input from the local community, input from the Office of Multicultural Affairs and Diversity, as well as the student body.
Thank you.
Gohar?
So thank you for being here. I just wanted to touch upon, earlier this year we did have a meeting with the dining administrators, just as a freshman class council. I know some of us were here, were there, but generally we talked about some of the specific concerns of just stuff that's gone on this year that might have not been like Bon Appetit driven, but just generally, such as like accurate descriptions of ingredients and allergens in food, and also respecting like cultural exceptions such as like halal meat and stuff like that. What are there any plans for that moving forward, such as like providing dietary information or anything like that in the future?
Yes, there is. And so we're doing a couple of things. One, we're partnering with an organization called Seaboard. They're going to be actually driving our production and inventory system. They actually have a direct link into the nutritionals. So that information driven directly from the recipes to the digital screens that are going up in the dining halls this summer. You will get direct push from the production system directly in there. The other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to have an in-house dietitian that will review all menus and recipes to be able to accurately review that the information that we're putting on the screen is 100% accurate. The last thing that we're doing is we're going to implement a feedback system that will allow students to give us feedback in real time called Text and Tell, and is a program that will allow students to give us feedback while they're in the dining halls to express, hey, this was great today. Hey, we've got, you said that this meal is gluten-free and it's not. How do we fix that? And so we can have an immediate impact, not just a reactive impact to some of those things.
Sure, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
yield my time.
Jenny?
Yeah, so thanks for giving a presentation today. And I know you guys mentioned the student advisory board on dining. And while I feel like that's a really good idea to get student feedback, I think it's still relatively unknown to students who aren't necessarily that involved on campus. So I'm just wondering if there's any future plans to basically promote that to the broader community, so we can get more student voices in dining.
Are you asking how do we promote the student advisory board?
Yeah,
or how do
and
we...
if you have any plans to promote it to the broader community.
Yeah, so we want to be able to do more robust focus groups, getting out and communicating directly with the student body. We have a dedicated director of marketing that's going to really be, part of their role is to engage with the students both from a promotional standpoint, but also engaging students' feedback. We'll also have some of the other departments, such as the sustainability manager, who will get in both programming and be associated with other groups on campus. I think that's one of the challenges that we haven't done a great job of, or Bon Appetit hasn't done a great job of having enough resources out in the student body and talking to students to really be able to get that feedback back from them. If we're only getting it at the point of impact where you're actually eating, that's a pretty minimal perspective to try and draw your conclusions from. We'll also be able to, I think one of the things that I didn't mention, but as we use Seaboard, the data is going to be able to talk to us. So, being able to understand that we thought that this meal that we tested in our kitchen was going to be fantastic, and we put it on the menu and we sold 5 portions of it, and in 2 rotations we sold 20 portions. Maybe it's not such a great item. Students truly don't like that. So, you'll speak with your bellies, I guess, or your mouth, right? In that fact, that what you're not eating and what you're not consuming will speak very loudly as to what's good and what's not good.
Good. Alrighty, Rachel.
First and foremost, thank you for being here and answering all of our questions. I know currently in our dining halls we have recyclable and compostable takeout boxes and utensils, but I feel like we can do better with actual reusable takeout boxes and utensils. I know you talked about how we're starting from scratch with self-operated dining and how you're introducing a new sustainability manager. So I was wondering if there was any talk of reusable takeout boxes or utensils or anything of the sorts.
Yes, there has been. There's been a lot of conversation about reusable containers. It's been an off and on trend throughout university and campus dining over the years. Some universities, it is very well accepted and the program works very well. Sometimes it's around not so much cost, but physical constraints of being able to turn things around in the dining halls, and then being able to, from a sanitation standpoint, making sure that those boxes come back, they're properly cleaned. So there's a lot of logistical things, but yes, reusable boxes have definitely been a part of the conversation up until this point. We haven't made a decision how that will be built into the program right now.
All right, Reed.
Hi, thank you for speaking to us. So I actually had a question that you kind of already answered. I was going to ask about a system where students can provide real-time feedback while they're in the dining halls. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm really excited that you are going to be implementing something like that. But I think I still have to ask a question. So
You can yield your time.
I did something.
Good. Okay, good. Just making sure.
So can you do this by next year? Because that would be really cool.
Can we do text and tell by next year, or can we get self-up by next year?
The real-time feedback text program system.
We are working on it right now. We're in conversations with the vendor who utilizes that technology. So it is our goal to have it in by the fall. It may be, if not by the fall, certainly by the spring, be able to have that technology in place. And that's one of the things to keep in mind is that we're doing this very, very quickly. This process normally takes, in many transitions, the plan to make the transition can take up to 3 years. We're going to do it in a much shorter time frame. So we're really focused on making sure that we do all the things that we have to do now and do them right, and then you'll see evolve over the next couple of years into the program we would all like it to be.
Good. Okay, I'm next on the speakers list. I have a bunch of questions, and the way this works when you have multiple is I'm just going to yell them all at you and hope you remember it. Otherwise, I can yield my time later. So first question is there still going to be a designated area for kosher food for the Orthodox Jewish students or anyone who keeps kosher? Second question is, will there be more third-party dining spots for dining dollars, such as the former Bamboo Cafe and the former Milkshake Lab, etc.? Because those were really popular with students, at least with me. My freshman year, I very much enjoyed them, and a lot of my friends did as well. Could you expand upon the employment opportunities? And then, what is a CBA agreement? You mentioned that with your employees, and that concludes it all. So kosher, third-party dining spots, employment opportunities, and CBA agreement.
Yes. Yes, there will remain still kosher dedicated location, and we will still have kosher meal plans. The second question was in regards to
third-party dining options.
We're exploring that right now. We're in conversations not only with the current vendors that are tied with Bon Appetit, but also other options that are in and around the campus as to what those options might look like. Student employment opportunities in year one, they may be minimal, but as we grow the program, we want to look at a number of opportunities in marketing, sustainability, technology, operational opportunities as well. We would love eventually, one day, that although Hopkins is not driven around that as a university, that there'd be a hospitality program that would really help drive some of the success, but that is a long vision down the road. But we would like to have more student involvement. I think, when you have the best self-op operations that we see throughout the country have a very robust student population involved in their programs. So the more ways that we can involve the student body in the program, right on the floor of the dining room, the much better our program is overall. The CBA is the collective bargaining agreement. That agreement with Local 7 Unite Here currently resides with Bon Appetit, and we are in current negotiations with the union in transitioning that agreement over to Johns Hopkins directly.
All right, thank you. That answers all my questions. We're going to go ahead and move on to Jiwon. We're going to go ahead and move on to Suba then.
Hi, thank you so much for speaking to us. My question is more about how does this affect the student experience? So when you walk into dining halls, or what will happen or not? There are some rumors, and I think we can confirm that there's construction about to happen in our dining facilities. So what is specifically changing in terms of how students will see and use these spaces?
So, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So I think I'll answer it backwards. So we're not planning any major construction in year one. I think like Matt mentioned before, our goal is really taking what we know we do well and do right now and emphasizing that. Building on small things quickly and then building on larger things in a much longer and more thought out process. There will be some physical changes to maybe some of the more aesthetics within the dining halls, some minor changes. No major construction right now. There's obviously a few of the large construction projects on campus do involve dining operations, so see some expansion there. But overall, I think one of the things that we're looking forward to is just being a little bit more closer knit to the program with the team that we're building out, the way we'll engage the staff. And I think you'll see the biggest change in the program, and not only the food quality, but the experience in the dining hall, whether that's with the staff, that's with the management team, how we're going to introduce some of the local vendors into the daily operations, and really just the events we'll engage students with, especially coming out of the pandemic. I think we'll see a really good change, a really positive change for that.
All right, we're going to move on to Mahek and then Raj, and that will conclude our time for Q&A.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I have two questions. My first being, what accommodations are going to be made in the self-operating dining for people who are experiencing religious holidays like fasting or Ramadan, or fasting for Jewish students because they have to break their fast later on in the day when the dining halls may be closed, or they have to get food earlier in the day to eat before dawn. And then my second question is, why are we moving so quickly to transitioning from Bon Appetit to self-serving dining?
So let me see which one of those easy questions.
I can take the Ramadan one.
Okay.
So Ramadan's a great example because we're actually working on a program now, and I don't know if anyone, if there's an MSA in the MSA group. So we just sent out, and I forget who got kind of an early peek at what our offerings will be, but we're looking at kind of these meal kit packages that you can get in the earlier, the late part of the day that can either carry over to the morning, knowing that you're not going to eat any major meals during the day. They kind of have a combination of things that we've seen as far as input from students. Some stuff you'll see available at Charles Street Market, and then some specialty kind of culturally relevant items in the dining halls that students are familiar with eating during those holidays. So we've solicited a couple different lines of feedback from those students. Something we did a couple of years ago and I'll really emphasize now with some success. And I think moving forward in the future, I think the student groups have proven to be a great resource for us in that realm, whether it's working with Hillel down the street, and how they've supported the kosher program at FMC, and just kind of different aspects, but really learning what students are looking for and then filling that void instead of just assuming that we know the right answer to those things. So I think we've had a couple test cases along the way that have proven pretty successful. We'll continue to build on those.
And then the second question I would answer with, so in the middle of the pandemic, the Bon Appetit contract was due to expire. There was a robust process around what direction the university should go. And so during that process, the evolution of it was that self-op really provided the best opportunity to be able to do that. It did not seem to make great sense to try and do that last year in the middle of the pandemic with everything else going on. And so Bon Appetit's contract was extended for a year, giving us the time to be able to do it. So it didn't make sense to re-enter into another long-term agreement. Most of those major contractors agreements are either 5 or 10 years. And that sort of timing didn't really make sense from a university overall perspective. And so, the university made a decision to move forward with the self-op dining, and then 2 out of 3 of us are a product of that decision. So we're pleased that that was the direction to go. So there's a lot of work to get done here over the next 116 days, but we think that we're in a great position to be able to come out of this and really evolve the current program, and then really develop our own program with a long-term strategic plan to make Hopkins, the best dining program in the country.
All right, and we're going to move on to Raj, and then after that, our time for the Q&A will expire. So Raj, go ahead.
Yeah, so first off, I just want to thank you so much for coming and presenting. We really appreciate it. I had a longer question and a shorter question. My longer question was that a little bit earlier in the semester, we had a presentation from Hopkins Real Food Initiative, and they were talking about how some of the things with Bon Appetit was that a lot of their food didn't qualify under their real food and sustainability guidelines, and that maybe the partnerships weren't necessarily with local farms, they were with corporations such as Tyson Chicken or Pepsi, to name a few. And so my question is, will you be working with this sustainability group to implement real food initiatives into your new dining program and help meet that guideline? And then my shorter question is, could there please be a late night?
Could you please be a what?
A late night.
A late night. I guess that depends on what you consider a late, but we'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
So the first part of that question I can answer is yes. We are joined at the hip with the Center for a Livable Future, the Department of Sustainability, Real Food on Campus, and a couple of other organizations that have a vested interest in what the procurement process looks like. We were just on a call today, in fact, working with them on a number of things. Our Director of Culinary Innovation is really the key part of their role is investing in the vendors that we're looking at and the programming that we're doing. And one of the key elements of that is not just looking at somebody who may be 25 miles away and making the chicken for us or growing the crops for us, but what are the practices that they're putting in place? I use an example of we're looking at a dairy producer that uses closes the circle by using their own manure that they transform into product to put down onto the land itself. So closing the entire loop. They're a little further away and it's slightly more expensive, but at the end of the day, we're going to look at through the lens of what's the experience that we create for the student, what is our responsibility from a global initiative, and then balancing our fiduciary responsibilities alongside that. We're still going to have to utilize a US Foods or a Cisco. There's too many large products and there's financial benefit to do some of the right things through them. It's about making the responsible choices and making good choices, and us being transparent with the student community about why we're making those choices. And that's going to be at the center of how we do all of our business, not just sustainability.
All right. Thank you for your time.
That concludes our moderated caucus time. If you guys want to speak further with dining, I'll send their email in the Teams chat. Otherwise, I can take other motions or I can move on to the next item. I don't see any other motions. Grace? Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All in favor of extending the Q&A by 5 minutes with 1 minute speaking times, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, we're going to go ahead and do, any abstentions? We're going to go ahead and do roll call. I'm going to say our names while we do it, so it's a little bit easier for Elena to keep track of everyone. So this is whether or not you want to move into a 5-minute moderated caucus with 1 minute speaking time, extending based on the previous caucus. Ryan.
Yay.
Dolhart.
Yay.
Jackson.
Yay.
Jean.
Yay.
Kaya.
Yay.
Kobe.
Yay.
Ireland.
Yay.
Harvey.
Yay.
Raj.
Yay.
Shalala.
Yay.
Rachel.
Yay.
Jenny. Nathan.
Yeah.
Grace.
Yay.
Nikki.
Yay.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Angela.
Yay.
Suba.
Yay.
Veda.
Yay.
Kritika.
Yay.
Obi. Thank you.
Yay.
Peter. Jiwon. Reed.
Nay.
Chinette.
Yay.
Sophie.
Yay.
Alrighty, majority rules, we're now in a 5-minute moderated caucus with 1-minute speaking times. Grace is first speaker. I'm gonna write that and then I'll take others. Go ahead, Grace.
I have a couple questions, and I think this is probably to you, the executive staff. There are a couple of options in each of the dining halls that work with staples every single day. I don't know if you have plans for something of that sort and what that kind of food would be, because there are certain people on campus that I know are, I mean, you also probably want to vary up the menu every day, and people may not be very receptive to everything that you put onto the menu. So I don't know if you've had considerations about what those sort of staple foods would be, as well as do you have any initiatives that you want to push, because I know that the dining hall here, and like basically every year that I've been here, have been pushing Meatless Mondays. But if you have any other initiatives of that sort, if you could speak for it.
Yeah. So yes, the answer to both of those questions is yes. We recognize that obviously there's got to be staples. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people like hamburgers, so I mean we can't really do without hamburgers. But we're trying to elevate that hamburger. I mean, it doesn't always have to be just the regular bun with the regular burger and the regular like cheddar cheese. And we're trying to incorporate ideas. For instance, we were talking about it earlier today. Maybe we can do a Burger Wednesday, where every Wednesday we have like a special burger for that week, and we get the feedback from you guys, and you tell us what you want to see those burgers, and that's what we're planning on doing. We're also planning on doing, to your second question, we do want to incorporate more healthier options, more plan-forward options. That is something that for me it's important. I feel that that's where we're going forward to, and it's important that we start incorporating those elements now. I mean, this school is known for innovation and all those things, so I feel that we also need to be going forward as well with you guys in that sense. So yes, we have that. Trust me, we'll make those changes for sure.
Thank you so much. I also have one last question. I don't know who will answer this. I know that I'm currently a senior, so it's been a while. But I know that my freshman year there were still stations around in the middle of the FFC that you could make your own food in. And I know that that's something that people lack because none of the dorms have like actually usable kitchens. I don't know if you have any plans for that.
I think you'll be excited to see the construction that is happening in the FFC this summer.
Okay. Alrighty. Moving on to Peter. Go ahead.
Yeah, this question, thank you for coming here, first of all. Really appreciate the presentation. My question is directed to Ian, just from England. So given the rise in inflation, would we also expect a rise in retail price of the food we buy at like Levering and also that in Farmart, or prices remain the same for students here?
Yeah, so we play the game in the retail world that we do have to act a little bit outside of what the normal campus operation looks like. We're very conservative in what we do affect those prices to. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into it that unfortunately are out of our control. And right now, supply chain, you all have probably heard about ad nauseum, is one of those factors. Like Matt and Lizette both mentioned before, we're working diligently, and we're spending a lot of time now looking at supply chain options locally to help us kind of skew the curve of what inflation is forcing us to do a little bit. But we don't expect there to be any increase outside of what we would normally look at year over year. You're talking about cents as opposed to dollars, the difference, and you know, we're going to hold pretty true to that commitment as best as we can.
All right, thanks so much.
Alrighty, Shalala.
Thank you again for coming to speak to us. I just had a small question. I was wondering if you were looking at extending some dining hall hours between the hours of 2 and 5 p.m. since there's not really anywhere to eat during that time except for Charmar, and only Levering and Daily Grind only have like J-Cash and $90. So I was wondering what you were thinking of that.
So we haven't finalized operational hours, you know, at all of the venues. What we see sense is if we have employees already in the spaces and we're fulfilling a production shift, there's no reason why the dining room can't be open to accommodate that. So we're evaluating each of those operations actually this week we've been doing it.
Thank you.
Angela?
Yeah, so, being that you said that there wasn't any major construction going on right now, we just were a little confused and kind of want to know then like why we didn't have our senior FFC point, being that your initial reasoning was because there was construction.
Well, you want to take that one?
Yeah, construction would be a light term. There's no physical change to the space. Not to pull the sheet down completely, but the comment that was made about some of the stations in the dining room, we're rebuilding how those are laid out in the dining room to bring back some of those features to what we used to have in FFC. It's work that isn't the cleanest work to have while we're serving food or while there's an event going on. Knowing that we have summer conferences backing right up to that, and then unfortunately just became a scheduling conflict where we didn't want to provide a space that wouldn't be at a point presentation that we'd be proud of, while also focusing what we needed to accomplish before summer conferences, and obviously lining us up to open the fall with success. So, construction again, a light term, but some more or less heavy work that will cause more of a disruption than we would have with having an event going on in that space.
All good? Alrighty. And then last on the speakers list is Dalhart.
This is something that I have priorly spoken about with you, Ian, in a meeting, but I know we had spoken about the use of dining dollars in several different locations, and I know you talked about some kind of bureaucratic issues with the use of dining dollars at locations such as like the Daily Grind and Mud and Brody Cafe. I was wondering if you could expand on any like plans for use of dining dollars in locations other than just Levering and Charmel.
Yeah, so I'll start off with a shameless plug. So we just recently opened Good Park and Company location in the O'Connor Rec Center, which is kind of one of the new locations in how we're rethinking those partnerships that does accept dining dollars. The bureaucratic piece of it is we have contractual relationships with those locations that are existing. So as we're renewing those contracts or looking for new vendors to bring in onto those contracts, we're including the acceptance of dining dollars in those agreements, which makes it a little bit easier for us to include to make sure that we can support that. But we know that'll bring a great piece of value back to the student meal plan and a new addition for us as well.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so that concludes our Q&A for this. I'm going to go ahead. Again, I will send the email for you, if you guys are okay with that, the email that I'm contacting. If anybody has further student feedback, it'll go in the general channel and Teams. So we're all good. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. Let me switch back to the agenda. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. And then if people from other public want to say that we have 3 open seats, feel free. Welcome to what SGA does. I don't ask me.
Thank you guys.
Have a good rest of your night. Thank you for coming. Alrighty, 1 second to adjust technical difficulties. Alright, so the next thing on the agenda is the Student Orgs Bill presented by Senator Dalhart. I'm going to go ahead and let it load on here, pull it up on my computer. So you have 5 to 10 minutes to go ahead and present your bill. Again, give me 1 second to pull it up and not overshoot. It's also tagged in the agenda as everything is. Give me 1 second to get all the way back up there. Dalhart, you want to give an intro for what it is?
Yeah. So hi everyone. So this is kind of a culmination of the conversation we had last week. So we were talking about the classification of student organizations and some roadblocks we've had in the past with re-registration and prospective organizations. So we ran into the block of some organizations that aren't in need of funding that still want recognition of SGA without, they just want the use of like Hopkins groups and some of our use on social media, but they don't really need the semesterly allocations or what we were saying for now is monthly grants. So this bill essentially is altering the bylaws so that when we do re-register or register a student organization, we can classify them as funded or unfunded, which would really just allow for more diverse student organizations and some smaller informal groups to be allowed to be recognized by SGA through the bylaws. Do you have any questions? No.
Point of information. You're only calling for this amendment listed here, right? Just clarifying this section 4 amendment there.
Yeah, so basically if you, like the verbiage is just like the existing bylaws and then I listed those and then there's the alterations. And right now it additionally says monthly grants, but I know further on the agenda that might be a verbiage change, so it is suggested in the document and that won't go forward until it's just like a verbiage alteration.
So
okay.
The
monthly grants?
monthly grant with the wet money grant or no?
So as of right now, it says monthly grant because that is the verbiage that is currently the precedent. But if further in this meeting it switches to the term event grant, then that will change shortly, and I will just accept the suggestion.
Yeah, okay. Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes.
You can go ahead and sit down. I will take a motion for anything. Thank you, Dalhart, for your presentation. Beautiful, beautiful. Hopefully everybody already had a chance to review this.
Point of information.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to vote on all the amendments together?
On all of them together? Give me 1 second. We're gonna go through them one at a time because I heard there's a little bit of questions about them. I believe it's technically Vice President's prerogative, pretty sure. So for this, we're gonna go through the amendments individually. There's only like 2 or 3 there, so it shouldn't be too bad. So if anybody wants to motion for anything, feel free. Suba?
Motion for a 5-minute moderated caucus with everything. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we're now in a 5-minute moderated caucus with 30-second speaking times. Suba's the first speaker. Please raise your placard if you would like to be added. You're good.
My question was like the terminology with monthly grants versus event funding grants. What's the reasoning for either of those? And
Yeah, so I'll throw that one to you.
Suba, point of order. Yield your time so Dalhart can answer.
yield my time to Dalhart.
I yield my time to Nathan.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamental thing you be on that, and we'll speak to that a little bit later in the meeting, is just that the monthly grants aren't always something that's monthly, and we want to make them a more frequent grant program. And so really emphasizing the purpose of them, which is to fund events in the title, is really the sole intention there. And so that's considered more of a semantic change. And so we'll get to that later, but basically, they're not going to be monthly.
Yield my time.
Alrighty, next person on the speakers list is Reed. Again, please raise your placard if you'd like to be added. Go ahead, Reed.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, because it seems like a really beneficial change. So basically what this is saying is that we can basically have student organizations that are classified as like not funded, and that will allow us to have a lot more diverse and smaller student organizations.
Yield your time.
So like in the past, there have been some applications for student organizations that we have unfortunately had to deny just because the use of funding for these clubs wouldn't be beneficial to them. And by simply recognizing them under SGA, through the bylaws, it's just they have the right to use this funding. So if we're able to label them as unfunded, they'd still be able to get the recognition and resources with SGA without using it.
All right, we don't have anybody else on the speakers list, so if someone wants to.
Would any new org that initially got classified as non-funded, would they be able to change their classification at any point in time or reapply to be funded?
Yield your time.
Yield my time.
So within the verbiage, it would be registered under like whatever classification, like funded or unfunded. But then with re-registration, we can look over everything again. So that would become that re-registration if you did want to switch status.
All right, I don't have anyone else on the Kobe. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor of ending the moderated caucus, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the moderated caucus is now ended. Kobe?
Motion to vote.
Seconded.
It's too late, I already did it. Exec was going to suggest a friendly amendment for the semantics there, possibly if anyone was interested, but we already recognized the motion on the table to vote. So, all in favor of moving into voting procedure, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we are now in voting procedure. All in favor of this amendment presented by Dalhart passing, please say aye.
Aye.
By the way, this is for the entire thing. I know I said earlier it was going to be line by line, but there wasn't very much disagreement. Suba?
There have been points of information or order, I don't know. There has been stuff like something just changed on here. So I don't
Once
know.
it's been presented to GBM, it cannot change. The language that it was originally added to the agenda is what it is. So if you change something, please revert it.
Point of information, we don't know how to change it because it's an event funding application will be stated later on in the meeting.
Okay, so then we can leave that be.
That's totally
Did anything else change?
I think I misclicked. I reverted.
Okay, thank you.
It doesn't change the spirit of the bill. so
Okay,
we'll be
got
able
it.
to-
Alrighty, so All in favor of passing this bill in the form that is, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congrats, Dalhart. It passed. Thank you. Beautiful. Amazing. Wonderful. Alrighty, so that brings us to, let me go ahead and close some of these tabs. Beautiful. Beautiful. Brings us to Ryan diving across the floor. Alright. So we're now up to the public input portion of the do you have a point?
Yes. Looking to add something to the agenda. It's a very short survey.
Do you want to wait until after public input and everything? Thank you, Kobe.
I would also like the motion to add a tabling.
Do you guys want to add that after we do? Because we have guests here and they've been here for a while. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. We're moving into public input. We will go back into new business. This does not conclude new business. We have more new business. So, as you guys saw, student government, public input doesn't speak when SGA speaks. It's not public input time, so we are not going to speak when you guys are speaking at all. So, like, don't address questions to, like, me or Calvin or anyone sitting on this side of the room. There's a division here. How it's going to work is you guys are going to have, what time is it? 15 minutes of public input time, and we're going to cap it at 45-second speaking times. I don't know if you've seen, but Mahek has a timer here. I'll give you a 5-second warning, and then I'll gavel to end your timing. I'm going to do speakers list just the same way that we ran through the speakers list. So when you raise it, just tell me your name. I'm going to get a full speakers list because I know their names. I don't know all of yours, unfortunately. SGA people, if they make comments and you want to respond to them, we have a chance to possibly address the comments during the SAC guidelines next thing, if they're applicable to SAC guidelines. Give me 1 second. If they're applicable to SAC guidelines, but again, don't interrupt public input, period. It's just out of respect. And this is something that a lot of us feel very passionately about. So just we're all students here. We're all trying to do the best for the people that we represent and everything. Just make sure we keep it a respectful conversation. If anything gets out of hand on either side, I do have the authority to ask people to leave the room if the conversation starts devolving into something not productive or harmful to organizations, etc., etc. And like I said, we're going to be keeping track of the cap of attendance in the room for COVID policies. So if you do get asked to leave, it's probably a COVID policy thing, and Mahek will tell you it's a COVID policy thing. So we're going to count one more time before we go into it. So 1 sec.
Okay.
We're good? We have one more?
Only 19 people can be here, so 1, 2, 3. I think we're over by 1.
Would one person mind leaving the room?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
You guys can cycle in. Like after you've said something, gotten your response, you can leave and have a new person come in if you'd like. We're double checking the count.
Point of information, are you allowed to extend the public input period?
Public input period set based on the estimated agenda timeline thing, just like how we set the speaking times for other things, but
I mean, a previous would drag on for an hour when we thought that new business would get done in 30 minutes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I mean, the previous new business, they got dragged on for over 30 minutes. And
Public input is different than new business. For public input, we typically cap it just to make sure we can address all of the items on the agenda before the estimated-ish end time, because we don't know how long they'll always take. Normally it's 10 minutes. I extended it to 15 because I knew we'd have lots of visitors today. So I'm going to cap it at 15 with 45-second speaking times. It's going to be the same process. If you guys feel like you've addressed your point, you can always yield your time to the next person to allow more people to speak if you would like. Does anybody from public input have any questions before we get started into this? Did I cover everything okay?
Okay, there's 21 people and there can only be 19 spectators right now. Sorry, I keep miscounting.
Okay, wait, we might have two more extra people. Did you forget to count us?
Yeah.
She forgot to count us because we exist in the room. If 2 more people exit the room. Thank you. Again, you can rotate in after you've asked your question. Thank you. I was wondering if you were counting us or not. I'm going to clear off. Oh, there's an eraser right here.
Point of inquiry. So just to be clear, there is no way to extend this time at all or input any new sort of moderated caucus if the conversation still wants to continue?
For public input, it's not under the moderated caucus structure at all. It's literally you guys just giving your input off of the speakers list. We don't do Q&A. We follow generic Parley Pro Roberts rules just to keep order, but nothing in particular. Point of information to Calvin. Is there a way to extend public input beyond the set time? Because we usually keep it to the exact thing, but I don't have exact wording in our constitution for that.
That's up to your discretion, but I mean, if you want to keep the
We'll keep it capped at 15, and if we feel like not enough people have been able to speak, I'll use my discretion for it. Don't want to offend anyone to start. I'm not going to give people.
That's her discretion, but yeah, she has discretion to decide whether or not.
Beautiful. I will decide. We had another question.
So I know you said that the SGA can make comments on things once we get to the staff part of it. Is it possible for the public forum to sort of address particular concerns that come up at any point, or is that just one and done?
Unfortunately, the way that GBM is structured, it is for Senate to talk when we have public input. Normally, public input period is at the end for people to be like, hey, I want to tell you guys about this new thing I'm doing, etc. We've tried to restructure the best we can so we can hear your concerns before we vote, because otherwise we would have already voted to pass it, and then we wouldn't have heard everybody's concerns. Another question?
Will our comments be recorded anywhere, and will that recording be released to the public?
So we live stream all of our meetings, and all of our meeting minutes, which Elena, our secretary in the back, is typing up, all go onto our website. The recording is also on YouTube. It used to be on Facebook. It's on YouTube now. So every single meeting that we have had this year is either on Facebook or YouTube, and our website has every single meeting minute for all GBMs, all class councils, all committee meetings, and all exec board meetings. Those are all on our website, which is j2sga.edu, I think. Good? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move into public input period. Please raise your hand. I'm gonna put the list first, and then you guys can start talking. So if you'd like to talk, I know your name. Name?
Vera.
Spell that for me.
V-A-R-A.
V-A-R-A?
Yes. Harsh.
Oh, Kylie, sorry.
Spell that for me.
D-E-V-A-N-S-H-E.
Lisa?
Gali, G-A-L-I.
Achuth, A-C-H-Y-U-T-H.
Nikita. N-I-K-I-T-A.
All in the back.
Brandon. B-R-A-N-D-O-N.
Gabe, G-A-B.
E-L-I-O-Y.
M-U-Z-Z-I.
Say that one more time.
M-U-Z-Z-I.
Anybody else want to speak? We can always add on more after this. This is just for the starting list. And if you're already on the list, you're good. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start public input period. I'm going to be keeping to the 45 second. Do you mind pulling it up?
Yeah. Okay. Start.
45 seconds. Go ahead. Start. You and go ahead.
Thank you guys for listening to us today. We first want to question the decision to move the speaking clubs under SGA from DOSO. We're aware this wasn't a democratic decision made by the SGA, which is why we find it even more necessary to review it. In our club history, SGA has been our supervisor in the past. However, it was deemed to be an inappropriate oversight organization for Hotman and Jumong over 2 decades ago, and Professor Bill Smetic helped us move Hotman and Jumong from SGA to DOSL. This is due to risk management purposes. Hotman sends around 50 people each year across the country, even transnational competitions, which leads to a lot of legal liability and potential issues.
5 seconds.
This is why we believe that SGA should not be the oversight committee handling these issues. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right, next person on the list, Vara.
I know a common rebuttal against defunding a lot of public speaking clubs is that you want to fund other clubs. So from talking to actual presidents of these other clubs, here's what statements that they have had to say. As president of 2 organizations under SGA, one of them being a cultural identity, one of them being a dance group, I understand the frustrations of not receiving enough money in annual allocations. While my org is currently in the position of financial stability and I'm satisfied with that, I do believe that cutting another student organization's allocation amount is not equitable or fair. Understandably, SGA is in a tough spot since to my knowledge they are given a set amount and have to determine that. However, I believe that SGA shouldn't cut another organization's budget for the benefit of another's. It is not equitable. Each organization has its own unique set of goals and not all members are in a stable financial position to pay out of
5
pocket
seconds.
if the organization itself is not allocated enough money. That is from our statement. Reviewing and talking with people.
All right.
Thank you.
Harsh?
Okay, this is going to be fast, but
So debate team prides itself on providing an inclusive environment for students on all backgrounds and experiences. I understand there's some concern about we only send like 4 of our best debaters every weekend, but that is not true. Most of our teams competing are people with no prior experience, people like myself who had no clue what debate was coming in. Till now, we have not had to tell anyone that they cannot debate at a tournament because they're not good enough, just because we had the ability to pay for them. At the point in time, we have limited funding and per member caps, we have to limit that. We have to limit on how many people we can send, which disadvantages FOI students, especially people who have not had prior experience. At the point in time where SGA's duty is to represent all students, especially ones that are burdened by external factors outside of their control, it is better to do this. We have a series of statements from current members, alumni, as well as friends from the league.
Your time is up, thank you.
Quick question, sorry.
Point of
Is there a
information.
way to share these statements with SGA so that people can review them?
Because
I don't think I can get to like 40 people's statements in 45 seconds.
If you wanna go ahead and email it,
Email it to me and I can drop it in our chat.
Okay.
yeah,
Point of information.
yeah,
I asked you to extend the 15th speaking time. I feel like it's not fair.
yeah, I'm going to extend. We don't motion to extend that, it's up to the VP's discretion. I'm gonna let everybody on the speakers list get through, and then I will figure out how much I'm extending by.
Point of information. What email address can we send statements to?
MALI39@jhu.edu.
Again, that's MALI 39 at the normal Hopkins email address.
That's my personal email, so
Brianna,
just
point of
don't
information.
spam me,
We
please.
extend it to 1 minute speaking time for everybody.
Would that be easier for you guys?
That would be a lot easier, yes.
You wanna adjust, okay, you don't have to adjust anything. Okay. Sorry for the first 3 people who went under 45 seconds speaking time. All right, you're next, go ahead.
Thank you. I know you all have a lot of concerns about our clubs being exclusive and having exclusive membership and not reaching out to the community. And I do want to make it known that we have in recent years been actively reaching out to the community. And I would love to talk about our specific policies, even though I have already proposed it to you guys, and I'm sure you all have seen the presentation. But we do have a guest speaker here who is not from Hopman, who did want to speak about his relation with Hopman and the community that we provided to the General Hopkins body. I yield my time to Manny.
Yeah, so I was a Hopman adjacent. My roommate was in Hopman, and I can see that there's this great sense of community within Hopman. Everybody helps each other out. Most of my friends who were in Hopman are now alumni. They now work in Capitol Hill or at SAIS, or are going to law school together. And in addition to that, I've also helped Hopman members as a part of their community. I've given away my MCAT study books to some of them. And one of the
5-second warning.
One of the alumni actually helped me prep for my interviews for med school. So I think this is very important.
All right, moving on to, I can't read my own handwriting. Go ahead.
So I basically wanted to make 2 quick points about inclusiveness. First of all, I'm a grad student and I was able to join Hopman, which shows that it's very open to a lot of people who are not under the purview of the SGA, and is very inclusive. And I was able to connect with other members of the Hopkins community as a grad student, which is very difficult to do. So it's a great and inclusive sort of community. The second point about inclusiveness is, as a grad student, I expect to and am funding my own travels for Hopman. But if funding is cut, most students will not be able to do that, and it is extremely expensive, which means that we will become less inclusive, not more. And it seems like the SGA cares about that, so it should take that into account. And not everyone can fund their own travels as I've been able to do.
Do you use your time?
I do.
Alrighty. Alright, next person on the list, Lisa, who I think is over here. Go ahead.
It is my understanding that the role of student organizations at Hopkins is to enrich the student body. That's exactly what Hopkins is doing, and exactly what we won't be able to do if our funding is cut. We currently have enough funds to send everyone to plenty of opportunities to train and even attend these conferences throughout the year. If our funding is cut, we may not even have the chance to attend one conference, and people will be required to compete for spots. In an already competitive school, that is only going to foster an increasingly competitive environment and destroy the experiences of many of the students that we serve each year. As training director, I've seen so many of these students grow throughout the year in public speaking, in confidence, in debate. These are skills that they value and skills that they work hard each and every week to even grow. That's a slap in the face to them if they cannot attend the conferences to show off the skills that they work each and every week tirelessly to develop. It's actually not even an issue of how many conferences will we can send, but if we can even attend one conference. So I think that
5
we really
seconds.
need to consider the differences that we're creating in people's lives.
Alrighty. Next person on the list is Gali.
everyone here has to recognize one core impact on the freshman class and other freshman classes. It's extremely hard to communicate within the community and to actually make bonds. But by having clubs such as debate clubs and Model UN, you find people with like-minded interests. And as an engineering major, I was able to embrace aspects of my humanitarian studies without having to compromise my coursework. Furthermore, I was able to make sure I strengthened my own communication skills and my networking skills, which have landed me in positions in multiple clubs and helped aid me in my summer internship programs. Furthermore, in most of our delegations where we meet other schools from not only just the DC area, but nationwide, we are able to forge better bonds so we can end up encouraging change globally, not just within the Baltimore area. We have planned to make meetings with Goucher College and to incorporate conversations with other delegates from Georgetown. We make impacts in the DC area and we make sure we actually make change outside of just the Johns Hopkins community. And without that, I wouldn't have a large group of friends that I currently have. So think of other freshmen and think about the community outside
5
of just
seconds.
Baltimore. I yield my time.
Thank you. All right. Achu?
Thank you. As a fellow freshman, it is a travesty and a fallacy that the idea that Hopman is not a community in and of itself is being considered true by this SGA committee. Hopman has been integral to the development of my own and my fellow peers' development and social and personal connection as students at Hopkins University. Additionally, our ability to compete at the highest level as a top 25 team, even with the broad level of acceptance we already have, shows that we are strong representatives of this campus, as well as being a strong group of friends, teammates, and forming an environment of camaraderie that is befitting of Johns Hopkins as a university. To cut our funding, to force us to not have these experiences of going to conferences, bonding over competition, and developing these skills that form us as good representatives of this university, you are shooting this university's capacity to act as a top 10 university and to act as a leading institution in this country in the needs. Thank you. I yield my time.
Point of information. Harsh, when you sent me the thing, we don't have access. So
Yeah,
can you
I'm working on making sure that you guys have access
Alright.
because I was added to that as well, but it should be done in like 2 seconds.
Okay. Nikita?
Thank you. I'd like to offer the international student perspective on this. First of all, I was online until this semester, and for all that time, Hopman has been the strongest connection to Johns Hopkins that I've had throughout those first 1.5 semesters at Hopkins. As such, to say that this isn't a strong community would simply be incorrect. Furthermore, as an international student, I pay a lot of fees to actually get here in the first place from plane travel. As such, this year alone, I have been to 3 conferences from Hopman. However, if funding were to be cut and travel were to become impossible, as an international student, I would not have the financial capacity to go to even one conference, especially if it is international. That would simply be impossible. We have more than 100 people who are interested in our club every single year. You would basically be excluding all of the international students who have to travel all the way to Hopkins and who offer
5
incredible
seconds.
perspectives from this club. And I do not think that the SGA would want to do that.
Perfect timing. All right, you can go ahead and raise
Point
that.
of information, sorry.
Yeah.
You guys should have access now. If
Okay.
you don't, I will send another link that should hopefully work.
Okay, thank you. Brandon? Go ahead.
I enter this university as a low-income student. I have to work 20 hours a week in order to fund my tuition, which I can barely afford at this point. Model UN and similar organizations offer students of my type the ability to travel, to connect with others, to have networking opportunities outside of the school and professionally. I would not be able to do this opportunity otherwise. Hopkins has a legacy to organizations such as Hopin and FLI to support low-income students, and this is something that Hopkins should continue with clubs. By pulling this funding, it would prioritize not only the best performing students, but also the students that are most capable of independently funding these trips. It would be a shame if one of the only organizations that supported my student life outside of academics could no longer do that financially, and I would no longer be able to participate in these opportunities. I yield my time.
All good, thank you. All right, Gabe?
Alright, so I think for me, from this perspective, I see the argument. First, we've asked why this is happening, and we haven't really received a really defined answer on why this is happening. We've only been given like a vague thing of, oh, you guys don't impact the community enough. But I think the main problem we have with this is that we are in our own communities, just joining as a novice like this semester. I've seen like plenty of community develop around this. Like we've got waffles together. Seniors invite us to play League of Legends all the time, and then we spend a lot of time getting together and actually debating, right? And this is not just one like 4-people team going and going and going.
the varsity people actively take novices under their wing and bring them into the debate world. That's what debate is all about, making that community. But even aside from that, in the broader community, our team has also been doing other stuff. We fundraise thousands of dollars for causes like the Public Justice Center, NAACP, Legal Defense Fund, and Baltimore Legal Action Team. And not only that, it exists as a safe space for minorities to have these social discussions, and in general contributes to a lot of academic growth. That
5 seconds.
You can't just say that it doesn't impact the community at all. And for these reasons, I think that.
Thank you. All right. Emily?
Alright, so on the point of exclusiveness, I just want to talk a bit about my experience. I'm someone who grew up with a very severe speech impediment. And what that means is from a competitive level, I'm never going to be that useful to my debate team, but the organization has never made me feel less than, or putting into place a sort of like tryout process, or something that made me feel like I had to compete for my spot. I feel just as accepted as the more fluid kids. And to have that space has been extremely important to me in my development socially at Hopkins. And the last thing I want to talk about is just a first-gen low-income student. If you cut our funding, there's a lot of kids at Hopkins who have a lot of cash from home. Debate and UN are still going to exist in a very large capacity. They just aren't going to exist
5 seconds.
For low-income kids like me.
Alrighty. Lizzie, please. Sorry if I said that wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to note is that our clubs are just not exclusive. Debate, for instance, has had like open tryouts. We allow anyone who wants to join, which means that there is a massive amount of exclusivity that just exists on the first place. But the second thing I wanted to say is just that I think that the way we represent clubs around campus and around all of this stuff means that we're massively present on the league. So Hopkins Debate is literally the 4th best debate team right now, and we've allowed like lots of individuals to participate and partake in these kinds of processes. Right? What this means is that like funding is uniquely how we get to these kinds of places, because debate has a really high barrier to pay to enter. Each tournament costs like $150 and stuff like that. And therefore like it's really expensive to enter as an individual. Like some of us may be able to afford it, but lots of us just can't. And that means that you would just be taking away the ability for individuals to actively engage in places. I think like it's really important to consider policies that would come to a compromise with all of us and like have something that SGA can talk about in general.
You use your time?
Yes, I yield my time.
Alright, so that concludes everyone on the speakers list. We have 4 more minutes left in the public input, and then I'm going to add about an additional 5 or 10 minutes because I've seen that there's a few new people cycling in. So if you've already spoken, I'm going to ask you to give a chance for the other public input people to speak. And if we still have extra time, I'll add you on if that's okay with you guys. So if you would like to be added to the speakers list and you haven't had a chance to say your piece yet, please raise your hand. Could I have your name?
DJ.
I can spell that. Anybody else?
Encore.
Spell that for me.
ANKUR.
Just tell me. You raise your hand?
Yep.
Anybody else? No? Okay, then if anybody would like to duplicate, feel free. That's about the 15-minute mark there. Name again?
Vera, VIRA.
Kylie. Lisa?
Gali, G-A-L-I.
Name again?
Let's shoot. ACHYUTH.
Last call for public input. Any other members of the public want to speak?
Nathaniel, N-A-T-H-A-N-I-E-L.
Anybody else?
If we're talking more, would you possibly go third time? Is there still time left? If there's like still time left.
Okay, possibly, yes. Okay. This is everybody else who will be speaking for public input. We're going to go ahead. You can play the 15, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes on top of the 15. So, alrighty. We're going to go ahead and start off with DJ. You can take it away.
Greetings. I currently serve as the recruiting director for Hopkins Model United Nations, and it has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. One thing I can say with absolute certainty is that people seek out clubs like Hopman, the Debate Council, and others because we perform incredibly well on on these circuits, whether they're at other schools, at prestigious conferences around the country, and that is fundamentally impacted by a cut in funding. We will not be able to attend the prestigious conferences and stuff that give Hopkins a good name in the rest of this country if we are not able to fund our travel. And as somebody who coordinates the recruiting process for Hopman, I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people express interest in this club. And one of the things that I found most incredible is that some people seek out this school because of clubs like this.
Thank you for your time. Next speaker is, I need to write better. Starts with A and K.
Yeah, Encore.
I forgot the last two letters.
So, I'm not actually on Hopman, but I have several friends, lifelong friends of mine, who serve on Hopman, and they've had a tremendous impact on me, not just me, but also on the broader community, and here's why. So, they're very much so involved in community outreach programs, whether that be trivia night on the beach, to be able to just interact with people, make connections with people, or even something like partnering with SNF Agora to focus on public speaking, something that I definitely need to improve on, as you can tell from my speaking skills, but is something that definitely is useful to a lot of other people. And not only that, but I've met a lot of incredible freshmen on this team just this past weekend. They're really well put together people, and it would be a real shame that without the funding that is, supposed to be for this club.
5 seconds.
I just think they need this funding so these freshmen can continue to grow.
All right, thank you. Will?
All right, I just wanted to quickly say that Model UN is one of the reasons I chose this school. I went to a high school conference and met a lot of people here. That was a big reason of my decision. I yield my time to Ewan.
So raise your hand if you are one of the people who considered public speaking when you chose a college. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of students across the U.S. and other international countries that do public speaking in their home country. And the reason why our rankings and our reputation is so important is because someone like me, I chose Hopman because I chose Johns Hopkins over Georgetown because the Hopman community made me feel like home before I even enrolled as a student here. And in fact, when I went to the Georgetown campus, their team's vibe was completely different. It was toxic, it was antagonistic, and I never want to see Hopman turn into that school, and I never want our Hopman to turn into a club that is so exclusive or turn into a pay-to-play club. And that is why I believe that if we move under SGA, our funding needs to move with us and be guaranteed to us.
Thank you. All right. Harsh?
Okay, give me 1 quick second. I actually have a timer so people listen here. I think people have talked a lot about emotion. I'm just going to talk about non-emotional stuff. People come to college to get a job, to have a career. Let's talk about that. We have people in literally any big organization or any major thing you want to talk about because our students have the opportunity to go and network with other like-minded people across the country. We have someone literally working in the House of the Speaker for the last 3 years who has talked via Edinburgh in the statement shared with you guys, who has literally talked about how debate was so important for getting a current position. We have also have multiple other statements, and the ability to do that is really important. Second thing, simply is competitive advantage. Uzi already talked about how we're 4th ranked in the nation right now. At the point in time which we currently have our budget, that is already putting us at a disadvantage. Nationally speaking as a whole, if you cut us down further, this is only going to make things worse, making it so that we're not going to be able to make people compete. This is the very simple truth, right? At the point in time at which we can only send X number of people, the number of people we take is going to go down. In person, we get 70 to 80 people that try out every
5
year.
seconds.
We would like to take all of them and give them as much opportunity as possible. I think you guys would like that as well. So just requesting support.
Time's up. Thank you. Farah?
I will also set a timer, sorry. Alright.
Starting now.
There are 2 points I want to stress in this speech. First is about community impact. Now, despite us showing you many great speeches, the quality of impact for the community, even if you only care about the quantity of impact in these speeches, Hopman and debate exceed that in spades. 200 people sign up for interest in our organization every single year. 80 to 100 try out or actually join our club every single year. We have 60 active members on our team. Already, this is one of the biggest communities. You've seen how much we do for the community, how we're one of the most active organizations on campus. But now let's actually talk about funding, right? I went to the SGA presentation on Friday where they were talking about funding, finances, etc., talking about what to do. And one of the numbers that stuck out to me was a finance person saying 34,351 is left in unused monthly event grants every year. And the next line, other amounts, we really, really want people to come ask us about the funding. Well, now you have clubs at your doorstep asking for funding. I know what some of y'all might say, oh, this funding is not meant for you, but I think that's the point. I think it's a reason why we want to craft funding policies to be tailored to clubs like these, so we don't have money sitting around when clubs clearly need them, when they rely on them, and it provides an equitable experience for all those who access public speaking. Money is not the question, access is. Thank you.
All right, Kylie?
Thank you. Building off of Vera's speech, I know a lot of you sit here. All you see us as are spoiled rich kids who are wasting money. I want to make this point clear. We do not waste our money at all when we go to travel. We pinch every single penny, and we can barely afford to send even everyone to just one conference a year. And I want to make that very, very clear. You guys have asked us over and over again, okay, we're amenable to giving you funding. How much are you willing to cut? Why are you asking us how much we're willing to cut? We cannot even afford things as is now. We cannot cut anything. We're working on a pandemic budget. We cannot cut a pandemic budget. When we are moving post-pandemic, conferences are no longer online anymore. We need to start traveling again. And just to prove how we pinch every single penny, I tell you, we try to optimize all of our travel plans. Whenever we can, we avoid the most expensive plane tickets. People take 18-hour bus rides to Montreal. Do you know how exhausting an 18-hour bus ride is? These people do everything they can to compete for a cause that they truly
5 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ewan?
I want to start my speech by saying that we are not directing all of this resentment or anything towards SGA yourselves. We understand this is a very confusing issue for everyone, and that is why I would like to ask DOSL to provide us with a clear figure of how much money is moving with these competitive clubs under SGA's budget. If we are moving without our budget, this is an untenable situation. Either we have to take funding from existing SGA clubs, which we do not want to, or the club entirely falls apart because we do not have enough funds to even operate, or the worst situation would be our club will become a pay-to-play club, as we have said before. And now I want to move into specific line-by-line critique of the existing bill. There is a quote that says, interscholastic competition groups are eligible for special consideration for travel and registration costs. If we're going to get the funding anyway when we apply, it is more efficient to just give us a consolidated budget in the beginning of the year. This is because conference fees get more expensive throughout the year, and so do plane tickets. Thank you.
All right, Lisa?
Whenever policy is enacted, you have to consider who is truly being affected. In this case, it's not just the debate teams, it's students with disabilities. As we've heard plenty of times today, it's low-income students. And it's students who are just looking for a community that they will not have if we take away our funding. I had the chance to attend a conference the other day in which Hotman won Best Learned Delegation at a national conference for the first time in its history. That is not just an accomplishment, that is the hard work and the dedication of the students that is fostered by the community that we are able to build because we are able to provide everyone with enough funding to have an opportunity that they may not have elsewhere, to speak their mind, to feel like their voice is heard, and to feel like they matter in a community that supports them. These are the opportunities that you cannot get rid of. I'm not just speaking for everyone in this room today. I'm speaking for the hundreds of students whose lives have been impacted and will be impacted by these debate teams. Their legacy here is tarnished if this bill goes forward. So I'm asking you to make these decisions not based off of what we've heard today, but based off of all the lives that actually rely on these organizations for support, for
5 seconds.
for friendship. They need this opportunity, and they don't deserve to have this taken away from them.
All right, all good? Next person, Golly?
I've done both debate and Model UN in my high school careers, and sadly, I wasn't able to go to a single Model UN conference until my senior year, and it was only on a virtual conference because it was free. I bring this up because my school had the smallest budget for London debate because we had to fund sports and other activities. But understand that just bred resentment throughout my high school team. I wasn't friends with anyone on my debate team, nor was I friends with anyone on my MUN team. And when you have a large delegation like we have at Hot MUN, any cut to our budget is going to breed resentment and having to stack our delegates against each other to send them to conferences. We're going to make sure that delegates will have to win to actually send them to conferences and make a bigger impact. And that takes away from the sole purpose why many of us actually do this. We do this because we're passionate and because we care. And I yield my time to you, Lynn.
Next, I want to point out that travel funding, it says in the bill, will be approved on a case-by-case basis. And also, some of you have brought up in individual conversations that we can seek external
5
funding.
seconds.
And I will continue my speech in the future.
Achu, go ahead.
Give me 1 second to
Oh.
set the timer. Thank you. I feel like there is a misconception on how committed Hotman is to its members. For Nick's sake, our very first conference of the year, a conference that the executive board here prided on sending as many new people to NUN as possible, we had to commute every day to DC and commute back. I slept for 4 hours a day every single day because we didn't have the capacity to send me to the hotel where I could compete on par with the other delegates there from other schools, and we still won awards. We broached top 25 last year, encouraging new people to join this club. We are a club that emphasizes and prides ourselves on sending every individual to at least one conference. And that's when money is tight as it is right now. If you reduce our budget any further, the community, the dedication we've built to ourselves and to the people in this club and to the broader debate culture as a whole goes down in flames. I yield my time to you.
Oh, I want to talk about consolidated budget again.
5 seconds.
Okay. Again, I want to work together with SGA to come up with a solution. That's
And
what we
your
want
time
to
is up.
decide.
I apologize.
Thank you.
All right, Nathaniel is the last speaker for public input period. Technically, with all of the time we had earlier, I can give you an extra minute. You would.
Oh, Nathaniel can go first.
Okay, no, Nathaniel's first. Mara, we concluded the public input before you got here.
I had to leave to the COVID thing.
Oh, you cycled in?
I'll let Mario speak.
Okay,
Oh
so
my
we'll
God.
take Nathaniel and then Mario. Nathaniel, go ahead.
I just want to add a couple layers of context to things people have already said. The importance of just not having barriers can't be overstated because it's not just about what happens when people get on the team, but for people to feel that they could be on the team if they wanted to, and that team will not impose restrictions upon them because they worry about cost. Just to worry about that is enough to get people thinking, am I going to make it to the next competition? Is it even worth it to commit my time to a team that obviously requires some effort, but if put in, will grant me great rewards? And I feel like people thinking about that, worrying about that, is one of the primary concerns people have when they're coming to a college and worry about in-groups and people already having friend groups and not knowing other people around them, which can be ameliorated by a team that leaves itself open to anyone who wants to join. And I feel like all this stuff that we've mentioned so far might fall a little bit outside of the realm of what SGA really can do. The bill has been mentioned, but not in all the specifics, so I feel like its constraints shouldn't apply to teams that are so distinct from all the other ones, that have unique considerations placed on them, that in the past have been governed by other organizations for a purpose, for a reason. And I think that reason has not changed. Nothing about the organization is different from how they were.
Time has
It
expired.
really said. Thank you.
All right, Mario, 1 second.
So
Go ahead.
I'm a graduating senior this year, and I can say that for a fact that debate has really had an impact on my past 4 years. Not only the community and the camaraderie, but like just the life skills, like the soft skills, like research, public speaking are actually really important. But also, if you think about Hopkins as a whole, it's a very STEM-oriented campus. So if you get the funding for Hopkins, for debate, for mock trial, you literally get some of the only outlets that people have to kind of like develop those skills, right? Then you have a lot of people that waste their college careers, like, and they don't get like the impact. So, and also just furthermore, it's really important that we are able to have flexibility, common sense, and keep our robust budgets because we need to not only let people who haven't had the opportunity to previously compete at like high school and things, but we also should do this because it really affects our national ranking with like in regards to like Hopman and debate and things like that. So you might time, Gillian.
5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Okay, well, we want to work with SGA once again to clear up this confusion with DOSL, and we would like to stay under DOSL if that's possible, but if not, we would like to ask for an exclusive bill dedicated to covering our organization.
Alrighty, that concludes public input. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just pause for 1 second to make sure all of my notes are in order. We're gonna go back into new business. Again, just pause 1 second. I will be right back. No, it's not. I'm just reviewing my notes really quick so we don't miss anything. Okay, I'm gonna have everybody go ahead and pull up Teams. I sent how the response for SAC guidelines is going to go. Just timing wise, we're going to try to generally limit it to the people who helped write the bill, etc. Feel free to make any comments you want though, like totally feel free, but I do want to give the majority of the time to the CSO, finance people, and then Calvin for further questions, point of information, etc. Give me 1 second to finish this. My laptop thinks we're typing in German right now, so we're trying to fix that. That is not right. You had it right. Okay, that was my hex ending that. Okay, wonderful. Beautiful. Okay, so public input period has now closed after about 20 minutes. Thank you guys for coming. We do value your input very much. We like having public input. Again, all of our SGA meetings are recorded, posted on the website, live streamed while they're happening, so if you don't want to come all the way here, and you also have full access to any of your senators at any time, you can just go ahead and shoot them an email. We tend to respond pretty quickly, or social media, or if you have my phone number or Instagram, I tend to answer on there as well, just for further public input purposes. We're going to go ahead and return into new business and cover the go ahead and cover the SAC guidelines confirmation. So I'm going to have Obi and Karen co-present that. You guys have 15 to 20 minutes to go ahead, give an overview of all of that. I'm going to pull it up right here.
If you guys want, you can come to the front.
Yeah.
It might be easier.
You don't have to, but you can. I don't like walking, so. It's loading slow and steady. Again, this does have a lot of information and applies to every org underneath SGA. And again, there's a lot of information. We had this at last week. And this is not the SAC guidelines. Do we have the wrong link?
No. I think you click on this one. Go down. It's this one.
Try that again. There we go. You can see all of our team's discussions. I will put at the end. You do whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, this is the SAC guidelines. You guys have our agenda, so you should be able to read through all of this. And again, this covers a whole lot of stuff, not just these orgs.
Can you pull up the presentation attached to it?
That was in the emails. Where?
The comments. Go to the side.
Oh, the comments that I can't see? I'm not seeing comments.
Wait. Let's expand this real quick.
Elena, this is temporary expansion, so we can see comments. Nope.
Okay, hold on. I'll drop in those thingy.
You can just paste it onto the agenda.
Yeah.
It's temporary. We're putting it back in 2 seconds. Oh, there it is. It came up. And now you can go back to full screen.
Computer is putting in overtime.
I know, this poor thing. If one of you guys wants to sit, you can take my seat.
You can also take my seat.
Yeah, we can stand. That way you guys keep holding on. It doesn't make sense. Okay. So I'm going to ask everybody to be silent during their presentation. We can have conversation after their presentation because that's how conversation works. So if all senators wouldn't mind silencing side conversations at this point, Karen and Obi, take it away. I'm going to step out to the bathroom.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Obi. I'm the finance chair for SGA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen. Thank you guys for coming tonight.
Okay, and today we're just here to brief you on the mid-semester updates for finance, as well as present the changes that will be made regarding like anything financial or so related, and just presenting more like thorough like clarifications for the SAC guidelines that will be discussed after this.
Also, I know you guys have brought up a lot of concerns, and those we will try to address as many as possible at the end of this presentation. So I guess next slide, please. SGA is given a grant every year by the Dean of Student Life to fund over 150 groups total.
So the basic way we are trying to adjust the way we are going to allocate funds into these groups is we are splitting it into 2 categories: semester allocations and event funding applications. In the past, it has just been general semester funding applications, and then we have monthly grants. But we do notice, as mentioned earlier, a lot of these funds that we actually allocate to these groups are not being used up. So a lot of the issue is just in the fact that the money's there, but groups are having a hard time being like incentivized to spend it, or just maybe it's been COVID issues. We're not really sure, but we are like rebranding the way we fund our groups. So we'd like to present semester allocations to be filled out twice on an opt-in basis. We're no longer requiring every single group who wants to be funded for the year to do a semester allocation. We want groups to be able to plan their events in the future, multiple events that are community building within the entire student body, foster collaboration and communication. And since these are due so far in advance, we don't want to burden every single student group to just fill out something and put random amounts and end up not using it. So we want only certain groups who have been able to plan to use that. Then we'd also like to open up event funding applications rather than monthly grants. So the way this will work is when you have an event, we don't want to fund based on group, right? We want to fund based on events that each group is throwing. So taking the place on monthly grants, and then you just fill it out on an as-needed basis at least 21 days before the event. But the sooner you fill it out, the more likely you are to get your items necessary for the event. And these should just fulfill general use administrative needs, such as like printing or flyers, just anything general that's not like a full event with like food, speakers, and things of that nature.
So who is eligible for these grants? So semester allocations are for SGA groups who do not derive their annual funding from another source. And then the event funding applications are open to all SGA recognized organizations. That includes SGA orgs and fraternity and sorority life. And any newly registered organizations are eligible for a $150 startup grant. Those are the ones that are just approved by the Committee on Student Organizations. And because those groups are not eligible funding until a year after, so we give them a $150 startup grant upon request.
So what information are we going to be requiring to receive funding? For starters, we just want to, on this same budget, we want people to, groups to start mentioning their storage plans and locations for reusable items and costumes. Because we notice for a lot of groups, especially like the performing groups and dance groups and things of that nature, they get costumes every single year, and we're wondering what happens to these costumes the following year. So we just like set storage plans. We would also like an up-to-date list of past and current treasurers who will be responsible for collection and retrieval and storage of items. Since a president and a treasurer are the only two positions necessary for every single org, we know they're gonna have a treasurer, and we wanna make this treasurer responsible for keeping up with items. For groups attending competitions or conferences, this can be any competition groups, this can be dance groups. We do want a document stating the minimum number of people required to attend. If there is no set minimum, finance and CSO will consult. We will elaborate on this further. There's a way that you can appeal your budget, or you can consult with us if you, and we can decide on an amount that's deemed essential to the group's functioning and growth. At the end of the day, that decision is still up to finance and CSO. If you cannot provide a number, we will evaluate every single bit of information you provide us, and we do welcome all of it, and then we'll make those decisions. Then we also would like plans as to how the group funds will be spent in addition to SGA funds. So we no longer want groups to just have a big pocket of group funds sitting in their account, and then they ask for, say they have 8K in their group funds and they're asking for 10K, from us. What are you doing with that 8K? That's just sitting there. It's not helping anyone. It's not going towards anything. And it's just taking money from other groups who actually do not have any group funds. We'd also like to incentivize groups to fundraise in addition to SGA funds, because we did understand that a lot of times SGA may not be able to fund everything you want. So we want groups to be able to be self-sufficient. Many other colleges and universities, a lot of our peer institutions, do not have this privilege to just receive allocations. Most of the groups at other schools have to fundraise. So we're just trying to incentivize groups by giving us a plan. We're not yet trying to, mandate fundraising, but we do want a plan as far as this cycle. So yeah, as stated in the beginning of the semester briefing, 5 student groups, Hop Model UN, Debate, Mock Trial, Minecraft, and Hopbound, were once being funded under DOSL, and they're now being funded under SGA. There have been no amounts, no decisions like that have been finalized, you know? Decisions about funding amounts are made once budgets are submitted to the DOSL. DOSL budgets are submitted at the end of the year by the SGA, and we request a specific amount, but that amount can always change. The money that the groups used to have will most likely move over them, but once again, that is not our decision to make, but it will definitely be taken into account. What we were told is 5 groups are moving and their money is moving with them. That decision was not up to us, but the DOSL does would like to only fund groups that are university-wide initiatives such as Hoptoberfest, Hopthon, and SGA, right? Like university-wide initiatives, things that like support the entire university. So no one is being cut, no one is being merged. We're just moving umbrellas, that's all. And once again, the final amounts that will be made when funding allocations are being released.
So this is a summarized timeline of how the budget submission process goes. So budgets, which should have been open earlier, will be open after these guidelines get approved, and groups will get roughly 3 to 4 weeks to submit their budgets to us, and then after those 3 to 4 weeks, we'll look over all of them and decide however much we want to approve. And then we'll also, in the final weeks of the semester, need to submit our own budget to the Dean of Student Life based on the budget that the budgets that we've reviewed of the students, of how much we need to be able to fully support groups. And then we don't know how much we'll get until end of December pretty much. And then once we get our budget, we'll be able to figure out how much each group actually gets and go back and make all the adjustments that we need to make. So during the allocation cycle, groups may be asked to present more information, or they can also appeal their budget once they receive it. This is because sometimes when groups submit, we need more detailed justification. Like if groups submitted something like supplies for $1,000, if they don't tell us what it is, we have no way of knowing what it actually is, which is why we may ask for a budget justification, or your request may be denied. Once allocations are finalized for the semesterly ones, any further requests of money would have to go through the event funding application. So that's per event basis. So if you have an event and you need funding for it, you would submit that application. And funding is recalled at the end of each semester, and it does not roll over.
So our frequently asked questions, we did listen and we do appreciate all the input that was given to us, and we did make note of things that were coming up a couple of times. The first one is addressing the statement of being cut, which I mentioned earlier. No one's budget is being cut. No one is thinking that everyone is a spoiled rich kid and is like they don't deserve money anymore. That is a misinformation, and that has never been said or happened. And by inclusive events, we do mean events that benefit the whole university as a whole, right? So not groups. We would like to move away funding individual groups, but we want to fund events. We want to fund inclusivity. So that's not saying we're not going to fund Hop Model UN, but Hop Model UN will receive more funding from us if they put together a public speaking workshop, something like that. I'm not sure if you already do, but we fund based on events. We don't fund by groups and say, oh, this 30K is going to only these 3 groups because we don't want them to succeed or something like that, The more events you have that are inclusive, that promote communication, that promote collaboration, the more we're going to fund off your budget. And as far as addressing barriers,
Okay, so I guess as you guys were speaking, I was trying to quickly type out what you guys are saying. So I'm going to try to address what I think were the main points that also came up. And I think one of those points was that we have somehow said that you guys don't build community, which I don't think anyone here has ever said that, and we definitely all think you guys do something great for the Hopkins community, and please don't ever think that way, because I think every Hopkins organization has some sort of way to build community and have a forward-facing impact on students. Hold on, it's just big chunks of it. Oh, go for it.
Another thing we want everyone to consider and think about, it's not that we are bringing Hopped On Minecraft Club, not just the 3 orgs, but we're not bringing 5 orgs and giving them a certain amount and say split this amongst yourselves. No, we are involving them to be better able to support them. You know, like as a student org with students, I feel like the Student Government Association should be best, you know, the best representative body for them. And with that being said, the money that they used to kind of have theoretically will just not be with us, and that whole thing will be split amongst groups based on their own impact. You know, we are, and it will be essential to your group's functioning at the end of the day. We are not going to make any sort of budgets or cuts that will just not enable you to be a group, because that would be a waste on our end, and there would just be no point in recognizing at all if we are funding something that will not let you be a group, you know.
At the end of the day, we want to be able to support you to the best of our ability, and we're not trying to say we're going to cut your funding. That's not what we're trying to say, and that's not what we're trying to get at here. And I think one of the points that you made that really stood out to me was that you guys want to work with us to discuss your funding, and that's something we also want to do with you guys as well, because at the end of the day, we don't know what you require. We are not part of, or some people may be, but I'm not a part of Model UN. A lot of people aren't part of Model UN, debate team, Minecraft Club, all those organizations, and so we don't know how to adequately fund you or what to adequately consider. So that is definitely a conversation to be had, to be able to better support your organizations. The purpose of these SAC guidelines are really so that all groups under SGA, we have over 100 of them, are able to submit their applications, so that we don't have to push it until April for them to start submitting the applications, which then we would not be able to review, and it would just end up sitting there for a whole summer. Yeah, so that's really the main purpose. And in our SAC guidelines, we have made a stipulation that says that we can raise the caps if we want to raise the caps, and things can be done on a case-by-case basis per group. So I hopefully that helps address some of your concerns.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and point of information Calvin for further clarification on any of the points that Karen and Opie did not successfully cover. If you want to address anything from public input, the point of information is currently active. Once the point of information is done, we can take other points.
Hold on, I'll let Peter ask this question because clearly he did it.
On information, would the public be able to directly ask questions to Calvin this time?
No, that's not. Public input period has concluded, so at this point it is as if they are spectating the meeting, which is what's happening. Another point of information?
Whatever it is. Could we have Calvin up there so that the Senate can go around and ask questions? Can I?
Point of informations aren't for questions. Guys, I'm in a point of information right now, so we can't have any motions once I've done a point of information, unless there are other point of informations that directly relate to mine. I'm gonna have Calvin go ahead and clarify anything that has been clarified, and then we can motion for a moderated caucus involving Calvin, or a Q&A involving Calvin, or whatever we'd like. Take it away.
Okay, here we go.
Can you state your role?
Sure. I am the State Director for Leadership Engagement and Experience Development. My office oversees, from a registration standpoint, the over 400 student organizations at Johns Hopkins. We directly advise the GRO, the Student Government Association, and manage the DOSL funding groups. Okay? So that is done in my office. I work for DOSL. My office reports to DOSL. So the main funding comes to DOSL, and then we administrate it in lead. Did that answer the question? Okay.
Any further points you want to make regarding anything?
Yes, I think they did a good job of answering some of those questions. The first thing is, in the realignment that's happening within DOSL, direct funded from DOSL groups are groups that have a university impact. So the HOP and all of the programming boards, the Student Government Association, GRO, and the class councils. That is it. Everything else will live somewhere else because they are individual organizations that are not university impact initiatives. However, when those groups move, the money that they got funded will move with them.
Oh.
That was always the case. Now, What I've asked SGA to do is to come up with a formula whereby your groups can talk about what it is you do, and that is in line with how other competition-based groups are operating at the campus. That is what I've asked them to do, and that's the process that they went through. However, as I've shared with many folks, the money that you've gotten previously is not, you're not going to SGA, and then you have to fight for the money that they currently are allocated. That is not what's happening. So I hope that clarifies any confusion that existed. We are not taking funds. Now, having said that, the one thing that will change is that you will have to be very specific in justifying your budget, which would have happened whether you stayed under DOSL or not. That was going to change.
Point
In
of
this
information.
scenario, it was my hope that we sent the money and that you had your student representatives who could advocate to in a way and share in the larger pot of money that you now have access to. You did not have access to before. So that was the intention. I'm sure it was not shared to you that way, but that was the intention. So I hope that that is helpful in clarifying some of the miscommunication that I've heard.
Point of information,
Yes.
that justification that Calvin talked about, all orgs have to do that when we ask for budgets. You have to go and just very clearly justify it. That way we know that funds aren't being misappropriated or used for something that they're not allowed to be used for per the university.
And to add some flavor to this, how many of you are seniors? How many of you remember when we had a $450,000 debt within our student organizations?
Yeah.
How many of you remember that all of the organizations here were part of that conversation?
Yes.
We are making everyone justify what they're spending their money on. It is not something we are targeting anyone. This is not meant to be a thing for any one group. This is to ensure that we do not find ourselves in the position we found ourselves in 2018, and then in 2020, the SGA covered the deficits of all of those organizations.
Okay, beautiful.
So I hope that answers some questions and that provides some clarity so that we can move forward with this process.
All right, I can go ahead and accept the motion, Q&A, whatever we want to do. Suba, I saw your hand first.
Motion for 10-minute moderated caucus with 30 seconds.
Second.
All in favor of a 10-minute moderated caucus with 30-second speaking times, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're now in a 10-minute moderated caucus with 30-second speaking time. I'm going to migrate over to this side of the board. If you guys want to go ahead and sit down, you're good to go ahead and sit down. If you want to stay up here, you can.
Oh, you're not done?
Well, I mean, we're done with this part, but we still have to pass the guidelines, so we take the caucus and then pass.
Are you done with your presentation?
They can stay there. They need to talk.
Okay. I'm gonna just right over here. Suba?
You have my time.
Hold up, let me get Kaya, Dalhar.
Point of information.
Yeah.
Can the public make points of information?
No, public can't say anything. Public doesn't exist right now. You do exist, in my heart, in my soul. But they're not part of the Senate, so they can't. Juwon, Peter, Jenny, Jackson. We're probably gonna need an extension.
Point of information, who's this moderated caucus? It's still directed to what we just presented, correct?
Yeah, it's about the topic there. Okay, I didn't miss anyone's hands? No? Okay. Suba, yielded time? Got it. Kaya, you're first?
So just to clarify, when these groups that are moving from DOSL, they're moving with the DOSL funds, and then they also get to dip into SGA funds.
Correct.
So that's very good.
Again, moderated caucus, not Q&A, but you can yield your time to ask
Point of
questions.
information, does that mean they'll be getting more funds than last year?
Possibly if they can justify it.
If finance wants to give them more funds, they can have access.
I'll yield my time to
Point of
Delher.
information, then why was your?
This sounds like point of informations are only, use that for moderated caucus. All right, Dalhar.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about several of the points that were made on both ends. So I know
we talked about kind of like the excess funds that were left. And I know like that's kind of just something that other student orgs haven't taken use of. But as a student org, like as like Hop Mun, I think the point of saying that like separate funding is necessary as like a pool is just something that's like not physically attainable. And I think these new guidelines make the process in which like larger orgs like you all would go under, it would make the process a lot easier and would allow more funds to be open for you to take use of. So I think there's just been a lot of misinformation regarding like the use of these funds and the process that we're going through. But I think just like a lot of our internal discussions have led us to these points, which will just allow for a more enriched student body in which like more like bang for our buck with the use of funds for different groups in more open ways to the student body to end selectivity, which you guys preached you don't
5-second warning.
You don't want because you want everyone to be able to participate in Hop Mun so have health insurance.
Huh? Mehak, you're good.
Oh, I'm sorry, yield my time actually.
You don't want to go? You want to yield your time to Karen?
Yield my time to Karen.
Yeah, as Dolphar said, I think also one of the points that was mentioned by you guys is that there's $30,000 of unspent funds every year. That was not what I said in the presentation. It was actually supposed to be like, we have $30,000 of funds left for monthly grants that people can apply for this semester. And any group that is SGA recognized is more than welcome to apply. Even you guys can apply now if you wanted to. So that's what I was trying to make.
Even groups that don't get the semester funding with the new guidelines.
Yes, correct. It's any group is eligible, and also we're trying to change the language so that it's now going to become event funding, which makes it a little bit more clear what it can be used for. And still, right now, even any group, anytime you want, you can apply for a monthly grant, and we review those on a weekly basis. So.
You yield your time?
Yes, I do.
All right, next person on the list is Jiwon. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin, for clarifying everything. I think that was what's needed, so I appreciate that. Also, the SEC guidelines intended for a guideline that's just not just for you guys, for every single SGA governed organization, so you guys can change into it. Also, yeah. And just in the understanding from finance point of view is that 30K, 12 delegates is definitely a lot of money. It's definitely more money than any organization that has ever spent. So coming into SGA, there will be a lot of time that you would have to justify your finances decisions, and like if you guys are like obviously you guys like look at Rolls Royce, you know, like you guys are not renting like 4 seasons, 10 times. But there will be a lot of like huddling you have to run through, but I will let you guys know that it will. That's going to happen.
Yield your time? Oh, you are out of time. That worked. Peter, go ahead.
So Hop Mun and Debate has previously told us in the public Q&A or public info period that they need to have funds ahead of time, so that way they can purchase travel cheaper, register for conferences on time and cheaper, and to plan for the year ahead. Would the SGA then support giving people funding in very advanced notice, and also in the form of a consolidated budget, so that way they do not spend unnecessary dollars?
Are you?
So for finance, there's the guidelines.
Are you yielding your time? This isn't a Q&A. Who are you yielding it to?
I'll yield it to Calvin or the finance chairs to explain how they're taking allocations.
Can you clarify the question?
So they have informed us in the public info period that they do need a consolidated budget ahead of time.
Consolidated in what terms?
And the fact that they receive all funds for a year and a very advanced notice, so those clubs could book for those flights early, which is cheaper.
I'm going
Also,
to point of order
conferences
this,
is
because this
cheaper.
isn't the structure of a moderated caucus. If you want to go into a Q&A, just because you can't yield time back and forth like that, and also you have a second left. You have
Motion to end the moderated caucus.
We can't motion for something, well, I guess we can to end a moderated caucus. Give me 1 second.
Motion to end moderated caucus.
Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'll be there in 1 second. Cool. I heard a motion to end the moderated caucus.
Motion to end moderated caucus.
Second.
All in favor of ending the moderated caucus at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The moderated caucus has now been ended.
Second.
Let him finish speaking.
Motion for a 10-minute Q&A with
1 minute and a half speaking time.
You're gonna make me do math?
Half speaking time, thank you.
Does that divide by 10?
No.
No. Oh, we're doing 1 minute speaking times.
1 minute speaking time.
Seconded? All in favor of moving into a 10-minute Q&A with 1 minute speaking times, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, give me 1 second.
I'll use my time computer.
Okay.
Alright, so just
1 second. Okay, go ahead.
Just to refer back to that initial question, would the SGA guidelines cover the fact of the need in which these student orgs, that they will require a consolidated budget ahead of time so that they could book for hotels, plane tickets, register to conferences very early so that the prices is cheap and they avoid spending unnecessary dollars?
Yeah, so many orgs are able, we are trying to get some orgs, like a lot of the theater organizations, they like have intercession shows, right? So what we're trying to ask them to do is submit their stuff for January over the fall. But I mean, I can.
You wanted to.
Yeah, I guess
Oh,
like a better
Karen
question was
first.
SAC guidelines cover their needs as of this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you yield your time? Was that the end of that?
Yield my time.
Okay.
If it's a Q&A, it doesn't automatically get
And,
Yes.
and just a point of order, from an operational standpoint, because they're talking about the funding, my office manages the purchases of these tickets, the purchases of these hotels. Yes, their funding covers anything that we would need to do, and as an institution, we always are looking for the cheapest price. So it's never going to be a situation where we're going to go out and try to find a price more expensive than what our student organizations can afford. So, yeah.
Alrighty. Next on the speakers list. Huh?
Can I say something to Peter?
Yes.
Also, I think like within our SAC guidelines, that's why everything's on a case-by-case basis, because we know that all groups have different needs, and that's definitely something that we can consider. Currently, like with the event funding and the semester allocation, if it does not meet their needs, then we can look to do an annual allocation thing. I know we recall funds at the end of the semester, but I'm sure, I don't know, I'll throw that to you, Calvin,
Yeah.
if we can make that so that it actually rolls over.
Well, sure, we could, but I think the big thing is, what we're trying to do is to work with you all to maximize the amount of funds that are available to students. So the reason that we don't do annual allocations anymore, we went to semesterly allocations, is because students were sitting on money for an entire year that was going unused, and another group didn't get to use it. And we were recalling almost $100,000 back to the university. So the purpose is to recall that money and allocate it back out to groups who want to use it, as opposed to letting it sit in student organizations' accounts.
5 seconds.
I forgot the second one.
We can ask it in another question, because
Okay.
Karen, you want to be added to you're the question person. I'll just ask you. Next on the list is Angela.
You have my time with Calvin.
Ha, that
What was
works.
the second question? What was the second question? Oh, do we have the ability to roll over funds, and do we have the ability to operationalize? The other thing was, we talked about for those schools who had stuff that they wanted to do over in the session, that they could add that as a part of their fall submission, so that their things were covered through the fall, and then they did their spring submission in the fall for the spring. So the funding would be covered under this scenario, and there would not be a lapse from an operational standpoint. If someone wanted to make a purchase for the spring and the fall, we could accommodate that.
Reed.
Yeah, so I just want to make.
You can sit when you announce. It's okay.
I just want to make.
Yeah. You want us to stand when we're doing it?
You know what? I got it. Go ahead.
I just want to make absolutely clear that if these organizations follow the right procedures, that they will be able to receive the same amount, if not more, amount of funding that they have been getting, even with these budget caps that I see in the guidelines.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Again,
you yield your
we're
time?
asking for specific information.
Okay, you yield your time, Reed?
Yeah, I yield my time.
Do you have a specific person you want to yield it to, or just next on the list?
Next on the list.
Okay.
Isn't a Q&A work like, it's the,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, like it's automatically yielded to the speakers.
For the last bit of the Q&A?
Yeah.
I don't know how much time's on the timer. Okay, you guys have about 20 seconds.
Yes, like I said, the money that was funded for these groups is moving. The goal was to have SGA come up with a formula that was consistent with how other competition-based groups currently operate on our campus. That was the goal. And so if they put in the justification in alignment with what those criteria are, up to the amount or over the amount that they were allocated previously.
5-second warning.
SGA has the ability to then allocate said funds.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mahek.
So basically, like the SAC guidelines are like for groups that are going to competitions, you guys are gonna start funding based on like individual competitions for like groups to be able to like qualify for like their regional things, right? Like not sending them to like extra competitions that they would not need to go to. Is that how
It's all up to the group.
Okay.
You know, like the we're gonna elaborate more, but a group can do a semesterly allocation. They can, if they want to plan exactly how many events they want to consider now, but they do have to understand that they will be limited by the semester allocation budget that we're going to get, and all of that will be split among all the groups who did semester allocations. But event funding applications, yes, it is on like an event by event basis based on, and then we'll just vote on it. Like there's never a strict cap, a strict cutoff, or anything of that nature.
So to follow up, since I still have some time, so but when you're talking about the event by event thing, that can be applied to like competitions, which can be counted on as events for the grants that Model UN / other like competition groups can apply to.
Yes.
Like
even-
not just events on campus.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Any of them.
Beautiful. Next person on the speakers list is Nathan. Surprise.
I think just for the body, if you could clarify some of the issues that have been raised regarding like advanced purchase of travel tickets, paying for registration fees, other things that affect our groups. Are these things that are only affecting competition groups, or are they things that we've had to grapple with for years and have established procedures for dealing with?
We have established procedures. We have a lot of competition groups that are not interscholastic or debate-based competition groups. We have a lot of dance groups. We have a lot of intercession groups. We had to approve a few budgets by like December, right? Because we have a lot of, what was it, Witness Theater. We have a lot of like theater groups that need their funding for their intercession showcase. We have groups that have like specific needs, and we do always work with these needs because we represent students at the end of the day. There's no rules preventing us from accommodating your needs.
Honestly, if you ask, we will do our best
5
to
seconds.
accommodate you, pretty much. Like, groups asked and we reviewed it before the session.
I'm next on the speakers list because I switched our positions. Because I saw your hand first and I realized whatever. So for me, I just wanted to, for the benefit of the public, how long have you guys been working on this? Like, about how much time have you spent on it? Because I know, personally, I've heard that you've gone into a lot of detail, but I'm not sure the manpower. So if you would like to elaborate, it doesn't have to be exact numbers, but just vaguely how much have you worked on it?
These guidelines. We had a meeting with Calvin before school even began, like first, second week of January, that we are having interscholastic competition groups come, and we do need to be able to accommodate them. And we created a specific section within our guidelines to try to accommodate people, just because for the fact that, you know, us current like senators, we know right now that you guys were not always part of us, but we tried to implement something in the guidelines so people who come after us would know that you have your own needs and you can submit it and we can review it. So since January, we've been working on it, and yeah.
And like these guidelines were brought to the Senate were supposed to be brought to the Senate 3 weeks ago, and we've been taking on them so we can make them better and to account for everyone.
Right. Everyone in the Senate was not in agreement with everything, and we have been putting together and shifting things around and hearing everyone's opinions, and the current guidelines have been modified maybe 3 weeks back to back. So it is not us just creating these rules and voting on it and not considering anyone. Everyone here is a representative of their own individual student boards and are advocating for them. So
All right. Next on the list is Jenny, and then Mahek, and then our time is going to expire. So Jenny, go ahead.
Okay, so I think we cleared up a lot of the misconceptions that a lot of people have like surrounding like this idea.
Point of order, Jenny, please speak up.
Oh, sorry. So I think we cleared up a lot of the misconceptions that like people had like surrounding like this idea of like budget cuts and stuff. But I think another issue I think we haven't addressed as like in detail is like the caps. I know that like a lot of these competition groups like just like the structure of the teams mean that like every member kind of compete at a varying level. So like it doesn't really make sense in terms of like the structure of teams to like basically put these caps in, and then a lot of these like really competitive and dedicated members can't go because there's like that cap per member. So I'm just like wondering if like the cap per member is something that we can also like appeal or like increase.
We haven't presented it yet. I mean, if we can pull it up now, that would be beautiful. I think that would be a nice segue. But we do have new travel.
I can bring it up as soon as we're out of this.
Also on that.
You have like 7 seconds left, that's why.
Okay.
We do have something in the SAT guidelines that says that caps can be raised. It's not a stagnant thing. It's on a case-by-case basis. So after discussion with the groups, that is something that we can bring to the Senate floor. That's something that we can talk about.
Yeah, we have travel and registration caps, if you could scroll down. We have travel and registration caps, and directly under that, we do have a statement stating that anything that may have been said was not brought to GBM. There may have been some edits made in there, you know, things of that nature, but nothing is finalized until it is brought to the Senate floor. So there has been some back and forth with all the other senators about whether to include a section or not include a section, increase a cap, not increase a cap. But I mean, this is what we're presenting. This may not be what's passed if we get a friendly amendment that comes up or something. But we do have travel and registration caps, and we do have special consideration for the travel and registration fees for interscholastic competition groups, because we do understand that this first year of you being funded under SGA, we may need to treat you just a bit differently from our other student orgs. And as long as you provide the correct documentation and like give us the information we are asking for, we will work with everyone to make sure your club functions the way it's supposed to be.
All right, last person on the speakers list is Mehek. Go ahead.
So just another clarifying question. So when student groups like go to these interscholastic competitions, can 2 alternatives be brought to these groups to allow students to have like experience other than just the competing members? Is that what those things gonna clarify?
Yeah, that's exactly what it states.
Thank you.
You yield your time?
I yield my time.
Okay, we have 45 seconds left, so I saw Kobe's hand first.
I'm asking about like the minimum members. What do we classify as minimum?
Some groups do have minimum members required to compete, but if you do not, there is a statement in there that does state that
I saw it earlier.
minimum to function as an org, right? Minimum to function as an organization, so that can be up to debate, you know, but we will try our best to do research and all of that, and it will not be just us. We will be, you know, asking the orgs what you've been doing in the past, and
5 seconds? Oh, perfect. Alrighty, so that concludes the time that we have for the Q&A. I can get a motion to extend, otherwise we're just gonna let it die, and I can get other motions.
Motion to extend by 5 minutes. Second.
All in favor of extending the Q? Oh, okay, I recognize Peter's motion. Could I get a second for Peter's motion? Alright, all in favor of extending the Q&A by 5 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? We're going to go ahead and do roll call. Please have your placards up so I can read your names because I can't see everyone's faces behind the computers. All right, Ryan.
Say it loud.
Quickly. Aye?
Yeah.
Also, you aren't supposed to change your vote in between what you said out loud and now. So, Ryan, say it again.
Oh, yeah.
Dalhart?
Nay.
Jackson?
Nay.
Jean?
Nay.
Kaya? Let me say your name first for record keeping. Kobe? Ireland? Harvey?
Nay.
Raj? Shalala? Rachel? Jenny? Nathan?
Nay.
Grace? Nikki? Angela? Suba? Veda? Kritika? Peter? Jiwon? Reed? Chinette? Sophie? Obi?
Yay.
Did I miss anyone? Okay. Nays or ayes have it? Nays have it. We are not going into the extended moderated caucus. So once this dies, they have a presentation they still have to do. We can continue conversation after this. So I'm going to let them continue the presentation now that it has died. It's not the slideshow. It's just scrolling through this, right?
Yeah. Just go from the top, and
Okay.
we'll just.
You guys have 10 to 15 minutes for this.
Okay.
Oh my God. Sorry. Making my way uptown. Take it away.
Okay, so these are SAC guidelines. You know, I hope everyone's read through it before GBM, hopefully, right? And
Point of order.
Is there a way we can move to a vote? Like, is there a motion?
No, they have time to finish their presentation. This is,
Because we haven't presented the bill itself.
yeah, we presented a presentation about what had changed, and then this is a continuation of their presentation. We gave time for a Q&A, so we split it into two parts. Continue.
Okay, we can just scroll through. I don't think anything here is being contested upon. We have semester budget allocations, we have event funding applications, as we discussed earlier.
You want me
We
to
have-
scroll until I see yellow?
Yeah, just keep scrolling. We have a lot of, caps, we have amounts here.
There we go,
And,
yellow.
There's two yellows. I mean, this are just amended amounts. If anyone would like to friendly amend and increase or decrease, we are open to that. And,
You can do that after their presentation.
anything else?
Moving on to this section.
Yeah, this travel cap, interscholastic competition groups are not the only groups that's been requesting travel from us, and we've been having to go back and forth with. A lot of clubs do travel. A lot of clubs that travel is essential for them as well. So that is not necessarily there. That wasn't just added there. That was always there.
I don't know which ones you want me to. Would you like to scroll through at your own pace? That would probably be easier. Let's step out of the way. Slide you out of the way. Stand in the background.
This printing and advertising cap, it's up pretty high, but we have been discussing amongst ourselves that this 3,000 cap is for groups that are essential publication groups that like public, so it'll be like 1,500 a semester max, right? So regular groups that are not publication groups have a cap of $100. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. And that's about it. I would suggest a Q&A, maybe a short one, just to make sure that everything was, addressed and clarified.
Okay, I recognize Angela.
Motion for a 5-minute Q&A with 30 seconds speaking time.
Seconded.
All in favor of moving into a 5-minute Q&A with 30 seconds speaking time, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Alrighty, we're now in a 5-minute Q&A with 30 seconds speaking time. Let me grab my chalk.
My time.
Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna get the list of speakers first, and then I'll let you yield to the second speaker, or yield to them, because they're Veda, Peter. Nathan, Jackson, that's everyone we have time for. No, it's not, we have 30 seconds speaking time, I lied. Okay, if you yield your time, you guys have 30 seconds to talk if you want, otherwise you can yield to the next person. You have anything you want to talk about for 30 seconds?
No.
Okay.
I thought someone did.
Nope. Veda?
Will there be any changes to the composition of SAC at the signing or the voting of this bill?
We hate SAC and we want to get rid of everything except you can.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah. So I think that like last week or the week before when we initially presented these, we talked about maybe making changes internally within SGA or within like the composition of like who would be heading SAC.
Nothing will be changed with this specific bill, but we are proposing many changes in the near future. It doesn't have to be today, but we are presenting a lot of changes that are regarding finance, but not in this one.
All right, that should be about 30 seconds. Peter?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a couple questions. One was that does these annual caps and also does these guidelines like eligibility notes strictly apply to competitive clubs as it stands right now? And if the SG is willing to offer a consolidated budget well advanced before the year starts, why is this still necessary for them to be applicable if the answer is yes?
Travel and registration are the only things scholastic groups can have special recognition according to the cap for, but every group can appeal any and every single cap.
For a follow-up on that, would traveling to certain locations also be able to be appealed? For example, if there's a very prestigious competition outside the states?
If it's within SAC budget constraints, if it's not outside of SAC budget constraints, then it will be considered.
5 seconds.
And SAC budget constraint is not yet confirmed.
No, no one's, even when they
All right,
weren't under.
time is up. Sorry. Nathan.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys could speak a little bit to what the justification was for leaving the printing at 3,000. There was some discussion about lowering that to 1,000, and we were thinking about what the impact of that would be on our publication groups. I was just hoping you guys could speak a little bit to that.
Right. I just feel like based on what we've seen, if we lower it to 1,500 per semester for publication groups, is just not possible. Right now, we have been encouraging publication groups to, move to an online format. But until they have hashed up, it's not just the printing that costs itself, but it's a lot of and I don't know the
5-second warning.
Writing or playbills, things of that nature. Those things do need some time to make up for.
All right, next person on the speakers list.
Yeah,
Jackson.
my question was also on that topic. So SAC doesn't fund subscriptions for websites, right?
Yes,
No.
that's a school policy,
Yeah.
not us.
So why not?
Because we have campus groups. We have campus groups. We
Yeah.
have a full website.
Because
So
the school
it
already
just
pays for
doesn't.
services like Teams,
Yeah,
Microsoft.
we pay for things we do not have. So if we have it, we're not paying for it.
Got it. Because couldn't that catalyze the price of having a publication group if you were to post certain websites or let's say just a blog or something that you could put up?
Yeah, we've been incentivizing them to do publications online, but a lot of changes are being made right now, and that's just one change we do not want to fight at this time. So
Got it.
we can.
I yield the rest right now.
So you guys have a little bit longer to talk. Okay. Do you have anything to say, or you can yield to the next person?
A little bit adding on the point is that a lot of journals / magazines / theater groups / dance groups need this amount for their printing costs, and this is the maximum possible that we can give. But we also look at the cost breakdown and all of their costs to arrive at a certain number.
Alrighty, we have one more speaker on the speakers list, and then our Q&A is out of time. So Jenny, you can go.
Before I mentioned the issue about the cap per member, you guys said that we can appeal that, and I'm just wondering, is it we appeal for the whole year, or
There's a part up here. Nathan, correct me where that is stated.
Scroll further. Yes.
Caps in general.
The first one.
Whatever. Caps in general, any cap, anything can be appealed. Nothing is set in stone. The only thing that we cannot control is which groups are under us. What we do within our money, everything can be appealed. We do
5
have these
seconds.
caps here, but yeah.
I think the question was more is it something we have to do every competition?
Is it every competition? If they fill out an event funding application and every event funding application gets
Time is up.
rejected, they have to appeal
Point of
that.
information, the caps are something that's semesterly, right? So once they're raised, there's something that applies to the organization for that semester.
All right, we moderated. Nope. Q&A has now expired at this time. So I recommend
to go into voting procedure.
Second.
all in favor of moving into voting procedure on the SAC guidelines, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we're gonna go ahead and do roll call. Elena, you ready? Okay, Ryan.
Yay.
Dalhart.
Yay.
Jackson.
Yay.
Jean. Kaya.
Yay.
Kobe. Ireland. Harvey.
Yay.
Raj. Shalala. Rachel. Jenny. Nathan.
Yay.
Grace. Nikki. Angela. Suba. Veda.
Aye.
Kritika. Peter. Jiwon. Reed. Sophie. Obi.
Aye.
I got everyone? All right, looks like we're moving into voting procedure. Thank you. So all in favor of the guidelines passing in the format they currently are, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Oh my God! Congratulations, you have finally passed the guideline.
Motion to go into a 5-minute recess.
Can I get a second?
Can we do that another week, please?
It's already on the table and it's already been seconded. All in favor of moving into a 5-minute recess?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're gonna go ahead and do roll call. Guys, please silent while we're voting. Please silent while we're voting. Ryan. Dalhart.
Nay.
Jackson.
What are we voting for? We're doing a recess.
We're getting a recess and we had ayes and nays for the recess, so I have to do roll call. I have to do roll call to see who said aye and nay for the recess.
Point of information overrules roll call.
Correct, I got your point of information. What is it?
What is the
Guys, please stop all side conversations. Okay.
I tried my best.
What is the reasoning for this recess?
That's not a point of information, that's a question towards a particular person.
I could do it with information and say.
You could do a point of information, explain the reasoning for the recess. You could do that.
Point of information, we are going into recess because a certain bylaw needs to be added to the agenda.
Cool. Wonderful.
Like not like amendment to a bylaw, yeah.
Oh, so it's like what I was asking about earlier.
Yeah, is it?
Point of information, it doesn't necessarily need to be this week.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this week. We can just, yeah.
Okay, well, currently we are in roll call. Currently, we are in roll call to see whether or not we are going into a 5-minute recess. I can't get out of it right now. We're already doing roll call. Ryan.
Nay.
Dahlhart.
Nay.
Jackson.
Nay.
Jean. Kaya.
Yay.
Kobe. Ireland. Harvey. Raj. Shalala. Rachel. Jenny.
Because the bylaws passed
Jenny.
the other mini building.
Juwan.
Nay.
Obi.
Nay.
Nathan. Grace. Nikki. Angela. Suba. Veda. Kritika. Peter. Reed. Sophie. I don't. Nate's got it? Okay. I'm open to other motions on the floor. I recognize Kobe.
Motion to add something to the agenda, then really quick, I promise.
Motion to add something to the agenda.
Seconded.
All in favor of adding what to the agenda?
Survey.
Adding a survey to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Drop the link on the agenda. Point of
motion for to add something to the agenda.
Beautiful. Give me 1 second. I'm going to point of information. Point of information. The survey has already gone through advisors and the change advisor recommended has been approved, which is why I am waiving whatever to go on there. Shout out to Kobe for following the rules. Is there another motion?
That's right, President. The SGA tabling bill to the agenda.
Can I get a second?
No.
Whoa.
It hasn't passed by finance.
It hasn't passed finance?
Like it got rejected?
Yes, it's not passed.
Never mind.
Pause. Withdraw your motion. Beautiful. We're going to go ahead and review Kobe's survey. Go ahead and pop into the agenda right now. Click on that link right now. Kobe, you're going to have 5 minutes to present. Have you toned down your conversation? All right. All side conversations can stop. Kobe, take it away.
Hi, this is a survey. We want to have
Dude, what are you doing? You're taking the job.
This is a survey to see if people would like it.
You want to migrate back to your seat?
5 questions, year, major. Are you interested? What do you want in it? Yeah.
For our tabling bill.
1 second.
This is important. Our tabling bill, I know it's didn't want to pass it, we wanted to adjust it, but we have to pass it to have a tabling bill.
Okay, so motion for recess.
Motion for recess,
Yep.
right?
Yep, and clarify what the recess is for.
We could just waive the thing so we can make a friendly amendment based on the.
No, because if I pass it the way it is, it can't be changed.
No, but we could.
We never reviewed it.
Just do a recess
We
is
have
easier.
like a 2-hour meeting on these guys.
A recess is easier. Okay. Motion to go into voting procedure on Kobe's survey. Seconded. All in favor of passing Kobe's survey, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Did I miss that? Sorry. I meant to say, as I always mess up, all in favor of moving into voting procedure on voting for Kobe's survey, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now in voting procedure for Kobe's survey. All in favor of voting of this bill passing, of this survey passing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We still have some stuff on the agenda, possibly.
Motion for a 2-minute recess because an essential SBA to enabling funding bill has to pass before spring break.
Second.
All in favor of a 2-minute recess to allow finance to meet an essential deadline tabling funding bill, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Finance.
We're in a 2-minute recess. I'll see you guys in 2 minutes.
I'm so sorry, finance.
Aye. No, I know.
Not passing anyways. I don't like the 90. I like We'll talk about that in IA, and then we'll bring this up. If it does not pass IA, you can do friendly amendment in the thing.
It doesn't pass. You have someone I don't want to, but we're gonna make it that way. I just want to make sure I'm on proper. Oh yeah, we don't have this is the one that's not set. So that's not set. It's fine because I haven't been nothing against you, nothing against the whole All right, the recess has now concluded. Please make your way back to your seats at this time.
Ciao. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Guys, it's 9:45. Make your way back to your seats now, please. I'm gonna get the gavel. You said move. This meeting is now again in order. Do we have any motions on the table?
Motion to now add the tabling event to the agenda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of adding the SGA tabling event bill to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. At this time, the presenter of the bill can go ahead and drop the link or somebody can drop the link. You can go ahead and give a summary of what's in the bill. You have 5 minutes. Take it away.
Shalala or Nikki or Angela?
I will, yeah, I'll go with Shalala because
Let me just pull it up. So this tabling bill is just for our next tabling event in March. The funding is just to buy more candy, a 5-pound box for $37, and to also buy tumblers to the dog for $792. That's it, girl.
Concluded. Alrighty, are there any motions on the table?
Motion to vote.
Can I get a second? All in favor of moving into voting procedure on this bill, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now in voting procedure. All in favor of this tabling event bill passing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, this tabling bill has passed. Congratulations. We will go ahead and submit that through the necessary channels. GBM is not over. We are so close, but it is not over. I believe that concludes new business. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. We're now moving into prospective business, advancing legislation and announcements, starting with advancing legislation. Anything that will be on the agenda next week. I'm going to go ahead and say there is a chance that there is a bill by Pritica that you may or may not have seen before. It just has to go through IA to see if it'll get passed, and I'm also going to send it to Carolyn to be advised. So there's a chance that will be on the agenda. Got you. Anybody else have advancing legislation? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. There's also an event report by you guys, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that will also be there.
Wait, sorry, just to say, Student Services will be putting out a survey next week that we will put on the agenda for next week.
Much appreciated. Okay, moving on to announcements. Announcements. Happy Blue Jay Tuesday, everyone. Another announcement.
Already said that.
Well, I wasn't here. Okay. Further announcements. The Planet Runway, whatever, is looking for more designers and more models as well. I think they're almost full with models. I'm running a workshop on how to upcycle. If you don't know what you're doing, I'm apparently in charge of teaching you. So show up. Into the Woods also is a thing that is happening, and that's a fun thing to do. You saw my message. I'm hoping about taking time to prioritize yourself, because I know school's getting hard. Please reach out to me if you want to. If you want to talk after GBM, I'll stay for like an extra 10 minutes, etc., etc. I forgot my other announcement point.
Best dressed.
Yeah, does anybody else have any other announcements? No? Nothing? Alrighty, now we're gonna go ahead and move. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, if you submitted your form to speak at the President Daniels dinner event or President Daniels event, Carolyn will be going through those submissions and giving you guys feedback, and then I will be giving you guys feedback after spring break is over, and then we will be scheduling times to meet the week after spring break to talk with us, and then basically that's the timeline.
Alright, now we're gonna go ahead and move into best dressed. Would anyone like to nominate Kobe?
I nominate Ireland.
Ireland, stand up. Yay, Ireland! Ireland, do you accept your nomination?
Sure.
Beautiful. Do we have any other Veda?
I'd like to nominate Suba.
Suba, stand up. Suba, do you accept your nomination?
Yeah.
Any other nominations? We only have 2 this week? Shalala.
I nominate Rihanna.
Thank you. This is called, I call this fit, I was supposed to be a Mark model, and these were the only clothes I had, so this is the Mark model photo shit. I accept it. Thank you. I nominate Shalala because I saw you at the Mark fashion thing and you had good style taste, so stand up. The pastels, I'm loving it. The pastels. Do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I do.
Alrighty, so just to review, the people who have been nominated are Ireland, Suba, me, and Shalala. Do we have any other nominations? Jackson.
I'd like to nominate Karen.
Karen? Aww. That's so cute. I thought you said Karen and put it right. Karen, stand up.
Go Karen!
As she knocks the chair off. That chair is cursed. Do you accept your nomination?
I have to reject it because y'all would call my name.
Aw, you're so sweet. You are literally like, okay.
Can I nominate Karen again?
No. If she wants to reject, she can reject.
Oh wait, I nominate Jackson.
Okay, I recognize Obi, who is
I'll reject it to keep this short.
Okay.
But thank you.
I was gonna nominate Reed.
Reed.
Oh.
Woo! Yeah. Reed, do you accept? Do you accept? Decline. Okay. Side conversations to a minimum. I'm nominating Obi. Again, I nominated 2 people this time. Stand up.
I reject.
No, but I liked your fit today. Okay, wonderful. I forgot. Elena, can you, who? And Reed. Okay,
Reed
wonderful.
rejected.
Reed rejected it. Did somebody else accept it in the last set of nominations that I missed? Okay. Everybody, head down, eyes closed. I'm gonna have you run voting. Head down, eyes closed. If you are going to vote for Suba, raise your hand.
Raise them high.
All the way up. Break your shoulders.
Okay, I see. I see.
Hands down. If you are voting for Ireland, raise your hand.
Okay.
Hands down. If you are voting for Shalala, raise your hand.
Okay.
Hands down. If you are voting for Brianna, raise your hand.
Okay.
Hands down. Did I get everyone?
Yeah.
Open your eyes.
Who was the second person?
Ireland.
Ireland, you win.
Yay! That matching eye makeup, killing it. Okay, we don't have public input. Wait, I need to recognize it. Who said it?
Seconded.
Motion to adjourn?
No, I said motion to end meeting. She said seconded.
Motion to adjourn. Seconded. All in favor of ending the meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Bring your placards up.
Placards to the front.
It's just be quick. We do.
Thank you. I want to be called today in case the meeting was scary.
Lean in.
I think you should send your interviews on Sunday.
Yeah.
Wait, Saturday morning? Can we discuss the Saturday?
I might not be able to make it because my parents are in town. And
I can give people a ride home. I have first one in my car. What do you do like ride Anybody need a ride home?
Nobody wants to drive the Prius, Brianna.
Your
purple Prius.
Omi, Reed, Sophie, do you guys need rides? I can take two of you guys if you need a ride.
I just need a
You
better,
do?
I
Okay.
just need to know what we want.
I need to rearrange my car, yeah.
The reason conduct is so hard. Like, CC me, or like, I don't know, like, send me the emails as quick as you, as soon as you can.
There's only been 11 meetings, so I'll
Are we gonna, like, we're not gonna get